Hello everyone, and welcome to the DX Details. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Issei was the reincarnation of Gojo Satoru with dragon energy. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Blue Eyes Awakening. Infinity stretched before him, vast, limitless, incomprehensible even to his extraordinary perception. Issei Hyodo floated through this expanse of nothingness and everything simultaneously, his consciousness drifting between memories that felt both foreign and intimately familiar. White hair, blue eyes that saw too much, boundless power at his fingertips. A voice echoed through the void. Deep, resonant, ancient. You are not what you once were, partner, nor are you yet what you shall become. Red scales gleamed in the darkness, flashing between fragments of another life. A blindfolded man with impossible confidence. Manipulating space itself, facing enemies that could shatter reality. Issei reached toward the crimson light, fingers stretching toward something just beyond his grasp. His alarm screamed into existence. Issei's hand smashed down on the buzzing device, cracking the plastic casing. He blinked at the destruction, momentarily confused by his own strength. Sweat drenched his sheets. Heart hammering against his ribs like it might break through. Third time this week, he muttered, running fingers through damp brown hair. The dream faded rapidly, leaving only impressions, power, confidence. Something important just beyond recollection. His reflection in the bathroom mirror looked ordinary enough. Unremarkable brown eyes, average build for a second-year high school student. Not like the white-haired figure who occasionally haunted his dreams. Yet something felt increasingly wrong beneath his skin, as if his body were merely a poorly fitting glove. The headache started, as he brushed his teeth, a low throb behind his eyes that had become his constant companion over the past month. Issei pressed his palms against his temples, waiting for the pressure to subside. You'll be late, his mother's voice carried up the stairs, grounding him in mundane reality. Coming, he grabbed his uniform jacket and school bag, pushing the lingering unease aside. Kuo Academy rose before him, Western-style architecture gleaming in the morning sun. Until recently, it had been an all-girls school, and the male population remained significantly outnumbered. This imbalance had initially delighted Issei. Though his enthusiasm had waned as social reality set in, being average had the same results regardless of gender ratios. Yo, Issei. Matsuda waved from the school gates, Motohama adjusting his glasses beside him. Issei's friends, the only ones willing to embrace their collective reputation as the school's perverted trio. Lately, Issei found their obsessions increasingly childish, though he couldn't pinpoint when this change had begun. You look like hell, Motohama observed, his notorious, 3 sizes scouter, eyes scanning Issei critically. Another rough night, Issei shrugged. Strange dreams. Oh ho. Matsuda elbowed him suggestively. What kind of dreams? Anyone we know. Not that kind, Issei replied, the throbbing behind his eyes intensifying. Just weird stuff. Can't really remember. They passed through corridors filled with chattering students. Conversations faded as they approached and resumed once they passed, the usual social ostracism. Today, however, Issei noticed something different. Subtle glances lingering on him specifically, whispered comments directed his way rather than at their collective reputation. Is something on my face? He asked. Matsuda looked confused. No. Why? Nothing. Issei quickened his pace, suddenly uncomfortable with the attention. Mathematics should have been the perfect opportunity to nap through his exhaustion. But the equations on the blackboard captured Issei's attention unexpectedly. The formulas seemed to shimmer, relationships between numbers revealing themselves with startling clarity. When Hayakawa-sensei asked a particularly difficult question that left the class silent, Issei found himself answering without conscious thought. The limit approaches infinity because the function c reaches an asymptotic boundary where space effectively curves back upon itself, creating a recursive relationship. The classroom fell silent. Hayakawa-sensei's chalk hovered mid-equation, her expression shifting from surprise to confusion. That's correct, Hyodo-kun, though we haven't covered non-Euclidean mathematical concepts yet. She studied him with newfound interest. Have you been studying advanced calculus independently? Quote. Issei blinked, equally confused by his own response. "No, sensei. It just made sense." Whispers erupted around him. Even Motohama looked shocked, mouthing, "What the hell?" From across the room, Issei slouched in his seat, the headache pulsing behind his eyes. By lunch period, word of his unexpected mathematical prowess had spread. Issei escaped to the roof, seeking solitude from the stares and whispers. The spring air carried cherry blossom petals across the school grounds, a serene contrast to his internal disquiet. "Mind if I join you?" The voice belonged to Tsubaki Shinra, student council vice president. Tall and composed, with long black hair and blue-rimmed glasses, she was known for her serious demeanor and exceptional intelligence. Issei straightened instinctively. "Shinra-senpai." Sure." She settled beside him, precisely 1 meter away, close enough for conversation, far enough to maintain propriety. Everything about her projected methodical precision, from her perfectly knotted tie to the way she arranged her bento box contents. "Hayakawa-sensei mentioned your interesting contribution in mathematics today," she said, breaking her chopsticks with a clean snap. "Non-Euclidean geometry isn't typically intuitive for most students." Issei shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't anything special. On the contrary, her glass caught the sunlight as she turned toward him. "You described a mathematical concept central to theoretical physics, specifically, spatial manipulation theorems related to dimensional boundary conditions." The terms should have meant nothing to Issei, yet comprehension flickered through his mind. It just seemed obvious. Like seeing the space between spaces. Tsubaki's chopsticks paused halfway to her mouth. "That's a rather unique perspective." She studied him with newfound intensity. "Have you experienced anything unusual lately? Changes in perception, perhaps? Awareness of things others don't notice?" The question struck uncomfortably close to his recent experiences. "Why do you ask?" Academic curiosity. Her response came too quickly, too practiced. Before Issei could press further, the roof door opened. A crimson-haired figure stepped into the sunlight, commanding attention without effort. Rias Gramori, third-year student and the school's undisputed idol. Foreign exchange student, perfect grades. Impossible beauty. She moved with the confidence of someone accustomed to admiration. What made her appearance unusual wasn't her presence, but her destination, walking directly toward Issei with purpose. Tsubaki. I thought I might find you here." Rias smiled warmly, though her eyes moved to Issei. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Gramori-san," Tsubaki acknowledged with a slight nod. "Not at all. Hyodo-kun and I were discussing mathematical theory." Rias settled gracefully on Issei's other side. "How fascinating. I didn't realize you had an interest in theoretical mathematics, Hyodo-kun." Being addressed directly by Rias Gramori would normally have sent Issei into stammering disbelief. Instead, he felt an odd sense of recognition, as if they'd met somewhere beyond school hallways. "It's new," he managed. "New interests can be transformative." Rias smiled. "Sometimes abilities emerge when we least expect them." Her choice of words seemed deliberate, laden with meaning beyond casual conversation. The headache intensified behind Issei's eyes, pressure building until he winced involuntarily. "Are you all right?" Tsubaki asked, observing him clinically. "Fine. Just a headache." Issei pressed his palms against his temples. "They've been getting worse lately. Perhaps you should visit the nurse," Rias suggested, studying him intently. "I'll manage." Issei stood abruptly, needing escape from their scrutiny. "Thanks for the company, but I should get ready for next period." As he reached the door, Rias called after him. "Hyodo-kun, if you continue experiencing these headaches, please don't hesitate to find me. I may be able to help." Something in her tone suggested she knew more than she revealed. Issei nodded uncertainly before descending the stairs, leaving the two upperclassmen watching his departure with unreadable expressions. The afternoon passed in a blur of lessons and increasing discomfort. By final period, I struggled to focus through the throbbing pressure behind his eyes. Colors seemed too vivid, sounds too sharp, as if his senses were calibrated to a different reality. When the dismissal bell finally rang, he declined Matsuda and Motohama's invitation to their usual after-school activities, claiming illness. Rather than heading home, Issei found himself wandering toward Kuo City Park. The city, Sun cast long shadows across deserted pathways as he settled on a bench near the central fountain, pressing the heels of his palms against his eyelids until kaleidoscopic patterns formed in the darkness. Rough day. Issei looked up to find a young woman watching him from the adjacent bench. She hadn't been there moments before. Early 20s, with long black hair and amber eyes that seemed to catch the fading sunlight unnaturally. Despite the spring chill, she wore only a yukata-style top and shorts, displaying slender legs ending in traditional wooden geta sandals. Something like that, Issei replied cautiously. Headaches, sensitivity to light, strange dreams. She listed his symptoms with casual accuracy. Maybe flashes of memories that don't feel like yours. Issei straightened. Who are you? Kuroka. She stretched languorously. And you're something unusual, Issei Hyodo. Not quite human anymore. Not quite. Something else. Not yet. Anyway, I don't know what you're talking about. The denial sounded hollow even to his own ears. Sure you do. She tilted her head, studying him like a curious cat might observe potential prey. You're changing. Your energy signature is fascinating. Dragon. Obviously, but there's something else mixed in. Something I've never encountered before. Dragon. Issei echoed incredulously. You really don't know. Kuroka's expression shifted to genuine surprise. How interesting. I assumed you were just playing dumb. The headache spiked suddenly, vision blurring. Through watering eyes, Issei could have sworn Kuroka's shadow stretched unnaturally, forming what looked like two tails against the pavement. You should be careful who you share your condition with, she continued, voice lowering. There are those who WOU. Find your unique energy signature quite appetizing. Is that a threat? Despite his confusion, Issei felt an unexpected surge of defiance. Kuroka laughed, a sound like wind chimes. If I wanted to harm you, we wouldn't be having this conversation. She rose fluidly. Consider this a friendly warning from someone who recognizes potential when she sees it. You're at a vulnerable stage in your awakening. Before Issei could respond, Kuroka's form blurred. He blinked, and she was simply gone. No footsteps, no disturbed leaves, nothing to indicate her path of departure. Twilight deepened around him as he tried processing the encounter. Each heartbeat sent waves of pressure through his skull, vision intermittently blurring. The fountain water's gentle splashing grew thunderous in his ears. Lights from distant buildings painfully bright. Something's wrong. I need to get home. Asterisk. Issei stumbled to his feet, disorientation nearly sending him back to the bench. The park spun around him as he forced himself toward the exit. Each step requiring conscious effort. Shadows stretched unnaturally across his path, streetlights flickering as he passed beneath them. He barely made it 3 blocks before needing to stop, leaning heavily against a convenience store wall. His reflection in the darkened window showed nothing unusual, just a teenager looking increasingly ill. Yet for a moment, when he blinked, another face seemed to overlay his own. White hair, eyes covered by something dark. You don't look well, young man. The voice belonged to a middle-aged businessman watching him with concern that didn't reach his eyes. Something about him immediately set Issei on edge, his stance too practiced, attention too focused. I'm fine, Issei managed. Just need to get home. Allow me to help. The man stepped closer, extending a hand that Issei instinctively avoided. No thanks. The businessman smiled, an expression devoid of warmth. I insist. The air around him shimmered, reality distorting subtly. 2 dark wings unfurled from his back, not physical, yet undeniably present. The transformation happened without fanfare, as matter of fact as changing a shirt. Your energy signature is quite unique, the winged man observed conversationally. My employer would be very interested in studying it further. Issei backed away, instinct overriding confusion. What are you? Someone with specific instructions regarding special cases like yourself. The man, creature, extended his hand again, this time manifesting a sphere of pulsing darkness. This won't hurt much. The energy projectile launched toward Issei faster than he could react. Impact seemed inevitable, until something shifted in his perception. Time didn't slow, exactly, but Issei suddenly processed everything with impossible clarity. The energy sphere's trajectory, its composition, the mathematical properties of its movement through space, all perfectly comprehensible. Most importantly, he understood. OD the infinitesimal space between the attack and himself. Infinity exists between any 2 points. Asterisk. The thought wasn't his own, yet resonated with absolute certainty. Issei reached instinctively toward that concept. Not physically but with something deeper. The energy sphere slowed, then stopped completely, suspended in air millimeters from his chest. Impossible, the winged attacker whispered, eyes widening. You're just a novice. Pain lanced through Issei's eyes, vision swimming with blue light. The pressure that had built all day released in a single, clarifying moment. Reality crystallized around him, every particle of existence suddenly visible in excruciating detail. He could see everything. The attacker's energy signature, the composition of air molecules between them, the fundamental structure of space itself. Most disturbingly, he could see thin black lines crisscrossing the creature's body, points of structural weakness, potential breaking points. Issei raised his hand instinctively. Go away. Space itself rippled between them. The suspended energy sphere inverted, collapsing into nothingness before a wave of force sent the winged attacker careening backward into a telephone pole. What are you? The creature demanded, genuine fear replacing arrogance. Issei took a step forward, blue light illuminating the darkened street. Words formed on his lips without conscious thought. Infinite void. Space distorted between his palms, darkness deeper than black forming a sphere of absolute nothingness. The sensation was exhilarating, terrifying, and perfectly natural, like remembering how to ride a bicycle after years of inactivity. The winged creature scrambled backward. Wait, I was only following orders. The energy signature. They said to investigate, not that you were a female voice interrupted from above. That's quite enough, I think. Crimson light flooded the street as Rias Grimori descended from the night sky, her own wings extended, not feathered black like the attackers, but shaped from intricate geometric patterns of darkness and light. This individual is under my protection, she announced with absolute authority. You have passed in my territory and attacked someone I've claimed interest in. Explain yourself. The winged man prostrated himself immediately. Grimori-sama, forgive me, I had no idea he was under your protection. There were no marks, because I hadn't yet formalized the arrangement, Rias replied coolly. Consider this my formal declaration. This human falls under House Grimori's jurisdiction. Of course, my deepest apologies. The creature backed away, eyes darting between Rias and Issei. I'll inform my superiors immediately. Do that. Rias's voice carried unmistakable dismissal. With a final fearful glance at Issei, the winged man vanished into darkness. The energy sphere between Issei's palms destabilized as his concentration wavered, dissipating harmlessly. The blue light illuminating his vision flickered, headache returning with crushing intensity. That was impressive, Rias observed, approaching cautiously. Especially for someone who hasn't been trained. Issei swayed on his feet. What's happening to me? You're awakening to abilities long dormant. Rias reached toward him, hesitating just short of physical contact. May I? When he nodded weakly, her fingers gently touched his temples. Coolness spread from her fingertips, temporarily alleviating the crushing pressure. This will help temporarily, but we need to get you somewhere safe. She studied his eyes with fascination. You're manifesting 2 distinct power signatures simultaneously. That's why you're experiencing such discomfort. They're competing for dominance. 2 powers, Issei echoed. Yes, one I recognize, the other. She shook her head. I've never encountered anything like it before. Those eyes. 6 eyes. The words emerged from somewhere deep in Issei's subconscious. Rias's expression sharpened with interest. 6 eyes. Is that what they're called? Before Issei could respond, another voice joined them. Fascinating development, Rias. You neglected to mention he was this far along in his awakening. Akano Himahima emerged from the shadows, traditional Miko outfit replaced by a school uniform similar to Rias's. Her long black hair remained in its customary ponytail. Violet eyes assessing Issei with clinical interest. I didn't know myself, Rias replied. He's progressing faster than anticipated. Clearly. Akano circled Issei slowly, maintaining precise distance. The dragon energy is unmistakable. But the other signature, she closed her eyes briefly, as if listening to something beyond normal perception. It's unlike anything in our records. Almost like. Like what? Rias pressed. Akano's eyes opened, fixing on Issei with new intensity. Like cursed energy, but impossibly refined. Old magic, from before the Great Convergence. Issei's legs finally gave out. He collapsed to his knees, vision tunneling as consciousness threatened to abandon him entirely. Through the encroaching darkness, he heard Rias's concerned voice. "We need to get him to the clubhouse immediately. Akeno, help me." Oblivion claimed him before he heard the rest. Dreams and memories blurred together in kaleidoscopic confusion. White hair, blindfold, limitless power, a dragon's roar echoing through dimensional space. Strong, aren't you? But strength without purpose is meaningless. Asterisk. Only the strongest deserve to decide what's right and wrong. Asterisk. With these 6 eyes, I can see everything. Asterisk. Partner, your potential exceeds anything I've witnessed in millennia. Asterisk. 2 distinct voices, 2 separate existences, converging within a single consciousness. Issei awoke gradually, awareness returning in fragments. Soft cushions beneath him, candlelight casting dancing shadows across ornate ceiling woodwork. The scent of brewing tea mingling with something older, parchment, magic, power. He was lying on a Victorian-style couch in what appeared to be an old-fashioned study. Bookshelves lined with ancient tomes. Magical circles inscribed on the floor, glowing faintly. A large desk positioned beneath a window showing night sky and crescent moon. "Welcome back." Rias sat across from him, legs crossed elegantly, teacup balanced in one hand. No wings now, just the school's most beautiful student watching him with undisguised fascination. "Where am I?" Issei managed, voice rough. "The Occult Research Club headquarters," Rias replied. "Though that's merely our public designation. In reality, this building serves as my base of operations within Kuo Academy." Operations. Issei pushed himself upright, surprised to find the headache reduced to manageable levels. "What exactly are you?" A small smile played across Rias's lips. "Direct, aren't you?" "I appreciate that." She set her teacup down. "I am Rias Grimori, heir to House Grimori of the 72 Pillars. In simpler terms, a devil." Quote. Issei blinked, waiting for the shock or disbelief that should accompany such a revelation. Instead, he felt only a strange sense of recognition. Like actual biblical devils. The mythology has certain inaccuracies, but essentially correct in broad strokes. Rias gestured toward a tea service on the table between them. "You should drink. It will help stabilize your energy." Issei accepted the offered cup cautiously, noticing faint symbols etched into the porcelain. The liquid inside was amber-colored, smelling of herbs and something unidentifiable. "What happened back there?" he asked after taking a tentative sip. The tea spread warmth through his system, easing lingering discomfort. "You manifested 2 distinct supernatural abilities, Simu. Lt Aeneasly, something that should theoretically be impossible." Rias leaned forward, elbows on knees. "One is clearly draconic in nature, specifically the power signature of one of the 2 heavenly dragons. And the other, that's where things become interesting." Rias's eyes gleamed with scholarly enthusiasm. "It's a form of energy manipulation I've never encountered personally, though there are historical records of similar phenomena. You called it 6 eyes, before losing consciousness." The term resonated with something deep in Issei's subconscious. "In my dreams lately, I see through someone else's eyes. Everything looks different, mathematical, precise. I can see the boundaries between objects, the spaces between spaces." "Fascinating." Rias tapped a finger against her lips thoughtfully. "And you've been experiencing these dreams for how long?" "A few weeks, but they've been getting more intense. More real." Issei set the teacup down. "Today in math class, I understood concepts I've never studied. And then in the park, that woman, Kuroka, said something about dragon energy." Rias straightened. "You encountered Kuroka, the stray devil." "She didn't seem like a devil," Issei replied. "More like a cat. Somehow, she said my energy signature was unusual. Kuroka is a Nekomata, a powerful yokai species with feline characteristics," Rias explained. "She's also a fugitive with a complicated history. The fact that she approached you directly is concerning." Before Issei could inquire further, the door opened to admit Akeno, now accompanied by Tsubaki Shinra and a blonde boy Issei recognized as Kiba Yuto, another school idol. "He's awake," Akeno observed, carrying another tea service. "Good. Tsubaki has a theory about his condition." Tsubaki approached with precise movements, pushing her glasses up with one finger. Based on the energy readings we've collected in your manifestation earlier, I believe you're experiencing a dual awakening, accessing PORs from two separate sources simultaneously. That doesn't explain the 6 eyes, Rias countered, or the spatial manipulation technique he used against the fallen angel. Actually, it might. Tsubaki placed a leather-bound book on the table, opening to a marked page. There are historical records of certain powerful individuals whose souls reincarnate with their abilities intact, particularly those with unique ocular techniques or spatial manipulation capabilities. Issei felt a jolt of recognition. Reincarnation. It would explain the dreams, memories from your previous existence filtering through as your powers awaken. Tsubaki adjusted her glasses, combined with the dragon energy, which appears to be a separate phenomenon entirely. 2 souls, 1 vessel, Akeno summarized. The dragon and the reincarnated sorcerer, both awakening simultaneously. Hiba, who had remained silent until now, approached with casual grace that betrayed practiced swordsmanship. How do you feel about all this, Hyodo-kun? It must be overwhelming. The question was simple yet profound, the first person to consider Issei's perspective rather than the phenomenon he represented. He considered his answer carefully. Yesterday, I was just an ordinary guy with weird dreams and headaches. Today I've met devils, survived an attack by someone with black wings, manifested powers I don't understand, and learned I might be the reincarnation of someone powerful. Issei ran a hand through his hair. Overwhelming doesn't begin to cover it. Yet you're remarkably composed, Rias observed. Quote, most humans would be in hysterics by now. Maybe that's the influence of whoever I used to be, Issei suggested. In the dreams, he's always completely confident, regardless of the situation. Limitless, Tsubaki murmured, studying the text before her. That's what you called your technique against the fallen angel. According to these records, there existed a lineage of sorcerers who manipulate space itself through a technique called limitless, controlled through specialized eyes that perceived reality's fundamental structure. The description resonated perfectly with Issei's experiences. That sounds right. When I used it, I could see everything, every particle, every possibility. Like infinity existed between any 2 points. Tsubaki's eyes widened slightly, the academic equivalent of shocked disbelief. If these records are accurate, you may be the reincarnation of an extraordinarily powerful sorcerer from before the Great Convergence, when magical systems were still distinct and separate. Great Convergence, Issei echoed. The event that brought supernatural worlds into closer alignment approximately 4 centuries ago, Rias explained. Before then, different magica systems operated with greater independence. Afterward, cross-system influence became more common, leading to our current supernatural ecosystem. Akeno set a teacup before Tsubaki. If Issei-kun is indeed manifesting both ancient sorcery techniques and dragon energy, he represents a previously undocumented hybrid. No wonder Kuroka took interest. And others will follow, Rias added grimly. Which brings us to an immediate concern. She turned to Issei. You need protection and training. Both your dragon powers and these sorcery techniques require proper guidance to develop safely. Are you offering? Issei asked, surprising himself with his directness. Rias smiled. House Grimoire has extensive resources and connections across supernatural communities. As it happens, I've been RC-ing dragon energy signatures for some time. Your case presents fascinating research opportunities. Translation. Yes, she wants to recruit you, Akeno interjected with a playful smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Though she's dancing around the typical method. Rias shot her friend a warning look. The situation calls for adaptation to circumstances. Traditional devil contracts wouldn't accommodate his unique condition. Traditional devil contracts. Issei felt increasingly out of depth. Devils traditionally recruit humans with special potential through a system of contracts and exchanges. Tsubaki explained clinically. The most common method involves resurrection through evil pieces, a system modeled after chess pieces that transform humans into devils. But that wouldn't work for me, Issei guessed. Your existing power signatures would likely reject the transformation, Rias confirmed. Instead, I propose an alliance of mutual benefit. You need training and protection. I can provide both while studying your unique abilities. Issei considered the offer, unexpected clarity cutting through confusion. What's the catch? A flicker of surprise crossed Rias's expression before she laughed softly. Direct indeed. The catch, as you put it, is that you would be associated with House Grimoire, which comes with certain political implications in supernatural circles. You would also be expected to assist with certain matters when your abilities might prove useful. She means you'd occasionally help fight problematic supernatural entities, Kiba translated with an easy smile. Much like what happened today, though usually with better preparation. The explanation should have terrified Issei, being drawn into supernatural conflicts far beyond his understanding. Yet something in him, perhaps the confidence of his previous incarnation, or the dragon's natural affinity for battle, found the prospect oddly appealing. I need time to think, he said finally. This is a lot to process. Of course. Rias rose gracefully. Take tonight to consider. However, her expression turned serious. After your display today, others will come looking for you. The fallen angel who attacked you was merely following orders to investigate an unusual energy signature. Once his superiors learn what you truly are, they'll send more dangerous agents. Akeno produced a small crystal pendant. This will shield your energy signature temporarily and alert us if you're in danger. Please wear it until you've made your decision. Issei accepted the pendant, feeling sub-TLE power humming within the crystalline structure. Thank you. Kiba will escort you home, Rias continued. For safety. We can continue this discussion tomorrow after school. As Issei followed Kiba from the old schoolhouse, questions crowded his mind. The world had expanded exponentially in a single day, revealing layers of supernatural reality he'd never suspected existed. Yet rather than feeling overwhelmed, he experienced an odd sense of awakening, as if previously dormant aspects of himself were finally stirring to life. The night air felt different against his skin, carrying informa. Qian beyond mere temperature and humidity. Streetlights illuminated their path, but Issei found he could perceive details even in shadow, an unexpected side effect of his awakening vision. You're handling this remarkably well, Kiba commented as they walked. Most people struggle with their first exposure to supernatural reality. Maybe I'm in shock, Issei suggested, though he didn't believe it. Something deeper was happening, a fundamental realignment of his perception. Kiba smiled. Or maybe there's more to Issei Hyodo than meets the eye. I suspected as much when you answered that question in Hayakawa-sensei's class today. You were there. I make it my business to notice unusual occurrences, Kiba replied cryptically. A second year suddenly demonstrating graduate-level mathematical understanding qualifies. They continued in companionable silence until reaching Issei's home, an ordinary two-story house in a quiet residential neighborhood. Light glowed from the windows. Hi's parents undoubtedly wondering about his delayed return. I'll leave you here, Kiba said. The pendant will provide protection overnight. If anything happens, simply channel energy into it, intention is sufficient. Thanks. Issei hesitated. Any advice before tomorrow? Kiba considered the question carefully. Trust your instincts. If you truly are experiencing reincarnation, you have no DGE and experience beyond your current lifetime. And if you possess one of the heavenly dragons, well, they choose their hosts for a reason. With that enigmatic statement, Kiba departed with the same effortless grace that characterized his movements. Issei watched him disappear around a corner before approaching his front door, mind racing with implications and possibilities. His parents' acts, his excuse about studying late at a friend's house without question, their ordinary concerns a jarring contrast to the supernatural revelations of his day. Dinner passed in a blur of mundane conversation that Issei navigated on autopilot, his awareness split between physical reality and the new perceptions awakening within him. Later, alone in his room, Issei examined the crystal pendant. Its structure was fascinating, mathematical patterns designed to diffuse and redirect energy signatures. Without conscious thought, he understood its functioning completely, identifying improvements that could be made to its efficiency. That's not my knowledge, he realized. That's from before, He sat cross-legged on his bed, crystal pendant held loosely between his palms, and closed his eyes. The headache had subsided to a dull awareness, like pressure against a dam that had temporarily stabilized. If Tsubaki's theory proved correct, he contained two distinct power sources struggling for equilibrium. I need to understand what's happening inside me. Meditation had never interested Issei before, yet his body settled naturally into the practice, breathing slowing as awareness turned inward. Beneath conscious thought, beyond physical sensation, he perceived something vast and complex, his own inner landscape rendered in energy signatures and mathematical relationships. Two distant, quartz sources pulsed within this internal topography. One burned crimson, ancient and powerful, radiating draconic energy that felt simultaneously foreign and deeply resonant with his existence. The other manifested as blue-white luminescence, mathematically perfect in its construction, maintaining precise boundaries within dimensional space. Between these forces lay Issei himself, not merely human consciousness but something evolving beyond previous limitations. The pressure he'd experienced represented these energies expanding within constraints never designed to contain them. I need to create balance, he realized. Not suppression, not dominance, harmony. Rather than resist either force, Issei reached toward both simultaneously, accepting their presence without surrendering his core identity. The response was immediate. Both energies pulsed in recognition, neither retreating nor overwhelming the other. An equilibrium established itself, temporary but functional. The relief was immediate. When Issei opened his eyes, his vision shifted seamlessly between normal perception and enhanced awareness, the transition smooth rather than jarring. The headache receded completely, replaced by calm certainty. He caught his reflection in his bedroom mirror, ordinary brown eyes that momentarily flashed with geometric patterns before settling back to normal. Not complete integration, not yet, but a first step toward controlling his awakening abilities. Sleep came easily despite the day's revelations, dreams flowing into structured narratives rather than chaotic fragments. He stood within infinite space, facing two distinct figures. One was a young man with wild white hair and startlingly blue eyes that perceived everything, blindfold hanging loosely around his neck. He radiated absolute confidence and limitless power, space itself bending subtly around him. The other appeared as an immense crimson dragon with emerald eyes, ancient beyond comprehension, scales gleaming with power that could challenge gods. Its presence filled dimensional space without constraint, primal yet profoundly intelligent. "So you're finally ready to listen," the white-haired figure observed, voice casual despite the impossible setting. "Took you long enough. The convergence progresses faster than anticipated," the dragon rumbled, voice resonating through Issei's consciousness rather than physical space. "The vessel shows promise." "Vessel?" Issei questioned. "Is that all I am to you?" The white-haired man laughed. "Hardly. You're Issei Hyodo. Your existence is distinct from mine, your potential your own. I'm merely previous experience you're accessing. Think of it as inheritance rather than possession." "And I am DDRAIG, the dragon continued. "The Red Dragon Emperor, sealed within the sacred gear you bear. We are partners, not parasite and host." "Sacred gear," Issei repeated, unfamiliar with the term. "Divine artifacts created by the biblical god," the white-haired man explained with casual authority. "Yours contains one of the heavenly dragons, quite the lottery win. Combined with my techniques." He smiled, the expression containing equal parts amusement and predatory anticipation. "Well, the possibilities are limitless. Who are you?" Issei asked directly. "What should I call you?" The figure considered for a moment. "In life, I was Satoru Gojo. Jujutsu sorcerer. The strongest, naturally." He said it without arrogance, as simple fact. "But names are ultimately meaningless. What matters is the power and how you use it." "And how will you use it, partner?" Diedrag inquired, enormous head tilting with curiosity. "That is the question that will define your path forward." Before Issei could respond, the dreamscape began dissolving, morning conscious ness intruding on the supernatural encounter. The last image before waking was Gojo's knowing smile and final words. "Remember, with the 6 eyes, you can see everything. With limitless, you can control infinity itself. The only real limitation is imagination." Issei awoke feeling fundamentally changed. The uncertainty and confusion of previous days had been replaced by growing confidence, not complete understanding, but acceptance of his evolving nature. The headache remained absent, energies temporarily balanced within his expanding consciousness. Morning routines passed in surreal normalcy. Breakfast with parents who remained blissfully unaware that their son had fundamentally transformed overnight. Issei found himself noticing details previously invisible, the mathematical precision of his mother's movements as she prepared lunches, the subtle energy signatures permeating household objects, the infinitesimal spaces between physical matter. The crystal pendant remained cool against his skin, its protective functions unnecessary while his energies maintained their tentative balance. Issei understood instinctively that this equilibrium was temporary, a first step rather than permanent resolution. Matsuda and Motohama waited at their usual meeting spot, immediately launching into exaggerated accounts of their latest attempts to peek into the girls' changing room. Their enthusiasm felt increasingly alien to Issei, who found himself quietly cataloging the mathematical patterns in passing clouds instead of engaging with their conversation. "You're acting weird again," Motohama observed, adjusting his glasses. "Still having those headaches?" "I'm fine," Issei replied automatically. "Just thinking." "About what? You've barely said 2 words since we left your house." How could he possibly explain that he'd discovered he contained the soul of an ancient sorcerer and the spirit of a primordial dragon? That devils and angels existed, fighting hidden wars while humans remained oblivious? That he could perceive the fundamental structure of reality itself? Just school stuff, he lied. They reached the academy gates, students streaming toward morning classes. Issei's enhanced perception immediately identified subtle differences among the population, individuals whose energy signatures diverged from typical human patterns. Most were concentrated around the old school building, confirming his suspicion that Rias's occult research club contained more supernatural entities than just those he'd met. Hyodo-kun. Tsubaki Shinra materialized beside them, clipboard held precisely at 45 degrees. Eyes clinical behind blue-rimmed glasses. Matsuda and Motohama froze in her presence, the student council vice president's authority rendering them temporarily speechless. "Good morning, Shinra-senpai," Issei greeted her, noting the subtle magical constructs woven into her seemingly ordinary uniform, protection spells and sensory enhancement charms disguised as decorative elements. "President Grimori asked me to escort you to the clubhouse after school." Tsubaki's gaze flicked briefly to the pendant visible beneath his collar. "I assume you've had time to consider her proposal." Matsuda and Motohama's expressions shifted from shock to disbelief, clearly misinterpreting the nature of the proposal from Kuo Academy's most beautiful third-year student. "I have," Issei confirmed. "I'll come." "Excellent. I'll meet you at the front gates after final bell." With a precise nod, Tsubaki departed, leaving Issei to face his friend's barrage of questions. "What proposal?" Motohama demanded. "From Rias Grimori." "The Rias Grimori? When did you even meet her?" "It's not what you think," Issei sighed. "It's about a research project." "Research project?" Matsuda repeated skeptically. "Since when are you interested in research? Or anything academic, for that matter?" "People change," Issei replied simply, walking toward the school entrance. Classes passed in strange duality, mundane lessons overlaid with his expanding awareness of reality's underlying structure. Mathematics became an exercise in restraint, deliberately limiting his responses to avoid drawing further attention. Literature revealed patterns in language he'd never previously noticed, philosophical meanings emerging from seemingly straightforward texts. During lunch period, Issei found himself approached by Kiba Yuto, the unexpected attention drawing curious stares from surrounding students. "Mind if I join you?" Kiba asked with his trademark smile that simultaneously sly charmed females and irritated males throughout the school. "Sure." Issei moved his lunch to make space as whispers erupted around them. Kiba settled gracefully opposite him. "How are you feeling today? Any complications?" The casual reference to supernatural matters in the crowded cafeteria momentarily startled Issei before he realized Kiba was speaking deliberately to avoid eavesdropping. To uninformed listeners, they were simply discussing health issues. "Better," Issei replied honestly. "I reached a temporary balance. It helped clarify things." Kiba nodded approvingly. "That's impressive progress for someone without formal training. Most take months to achieve preliminary control." "I had help," Issei admitted, thinking of the dream conversation with Gojo and Didrake. "From your previous incarnation?" Kiba asked perceptively. "That would explain the accelerated adaptation. Muscle memory exists for supernatural abilities as well as physical skills." Before Issei could respond, a familiar voice interrupted. My, aren't we popular today? Akano Himehime approached their table with graceful movements that immediately captured attention throughout the cafeteria. Unlike her appearance the previous evening, she now wore the standard Kuo Academy uniform, long black hair tied in its customary ponytail. Despite the ordinary attire, Issei's enhanced perception detected complex magical energies carefully contained beneath perfect composure. Himehime-senpai, Issei acknowledged, increasingly aware of the stares their unusual gathering was attracting. Akano settled beside them with a smile that combined warmth with something darker, more complex. Rias sent me to make sure you were adjusting well. Yesterday was quite the shock to your system. I'm managing, Issei replied. The balance is helping. Quote, balance. Akano's eyes sharpened with interest. You've actually managed to stabilize the competing energies. Temporarily, Issei clarified. It won't last, but it's a start. Fascinating. Akano studied him with renewed intensity. Most individuals with multiple power sources require years to achieve preliminary harmony. Even temporary balance suggests exceptional compatibility. Their conversation continued in carefully coded terms, supernatural matters discussed under the guise of ordinary topics while curious students watched from surrounding tables. The previous days Issei would have reveled in being seen with two of the school's most popular students. Today, he found himself more interested in the magical theories Akano subtly shared between mundane comments. Afternoon classes passed quickly, anticipation building for the meeting with Rias and her group. As promised, Tsubaki waited at the school gates, posture perfect as students streamed past with curious glances. Ready? She asked simply. Issei nodded, falling into step beside her as they headed toward the old school building. Cherry blossoms drifted across their path. Spring afternoon painted in soft pastels that contrasted with the supernatural developments reshaping his existence. I've been researching your condition, Tsubaki stated without preamble, voice pitched to reach only his ears. The combination of reincarnated abilities and sacred gear manifestation is unprecedented in documented history. Is that good or bad? Issei asked. Both. Unprecedented. Phenomena offer tremendous potential but equally significant risk. She adjusted her glasses precisely. The power scales involved are concerning. If my calculations are correct, the full manifest ion of both your Six Eyes technique and the boosted gear would place you among the highest tiers of supernatural entities. The casual assessment of his potential should have seemed absurd, yesterday. He'd been an ordinary student with unremarkable grades and prospects. Yet something deeper recognized the truth in her words, an intrinsic understanding of the forces awakening within him. That explains the attention, Issei observed. First Kuroka, then the fallen angel, now Rias and your group. Tsubaki's lips quirked in what might have been the ghost of a smile. Indeed, power attracts attention in supernatural circles, both beneficial and dangerous. Which is why this alliance with Rias Grimori merits serious consideration. They reached the old school building, Victorian architecture standing apart from the Academy's more modern structures. Magic saturated the very foundation, protective wards and dimensional manipulations woven into physical matter. With his awakening perception, Issei could see the complex spell work maintaining privacy and security throughout the structure. Inside, the Occult Research Club headquarters appeared exactly as it had the previous evening, ornate furnishings, candlelight, and the persistent sense of something ancient beneath modern pretense. Rias waited beside a large desk, Akano at her side. Kiba had somehow arrived before them despite leaving the main building after Issei, suggesting alternative routes between structures. Welcome back, Rias greeted him warmly. I understand you've made remarkable progress since yesterday. I've achieved temporary balance, Issei confirmed. It won't last, but it's helping me understand what's happening. Impressive. Rias gestured toward the familiar couch. Please, make yourself comfortable. We have much to discuss. As Issei settled into his seat, the door opened to admit a small white-haired girl he recognized as Kaneko Tuju, a first-year student known for her stoic demeanor and unexpected strength. Like Kiba and Akano, her ordinary school uniform concealed subtle supernatural presence, though her energy signature contained familiar elements that reminded Issei of his encounter with Kuroka. Everyone's here, Rias observed with satisfaction. Good. Before we proceed, Issei, have you reached a decision regarding my proposal? Issei considered the question carefully. The dream conversation with Gojo and Diedreg had clarified certain aspects of his situation, while his own instincts provided unexpected guidance. He understood intuitively that his awakening abilities would attract increasing attention from supernatural factions. Protection and training were necessities, not luxuries. I accept your offer, he stated simply. But I have conditions. Surprise flickered Acr. Rias's expression before she smiled appreciatively. Of course, I wouldn't expect otherwise. First, I want complete information. No convenient omissions about supernatural politics are my condition. Second, I retain autonomy. Final decisions about using my abilities remain mine alone. Third, I want training for both aspects of my power, not just the dragon energy you're familiar with. The directness of his requirements clearly surprised the gathered devils, particularly coming from someone who, until yesterday, had been an ordinary human student. Yet rather than offense, Rias's expression showed growing respect. Reasonable terms, all considered. She extended her hand formally. I accept your conditions, Issei Hyodo. Welcome to the Occult Research Club, and to the broader supernatural world. As their hands met, magic flared briefly, not a binding contract like traditional devil pacts, but acknowledgement between powers. In that moment, Issei felt something shift within him, Onyo. Their step in his accelerating transformation. For better or worse, his ordinary life had ended. What emerged from this supernatural awakening remained to be seen, but with the confidence of a jujutsu sorcerer and the power of a dragon, he would face it head-on. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Infinite Possibilities. Morning light fractured through crystal formations hanging from Issei's bedroom window. Simple glass prisms Rias had provided after their agreement. They cast mathematical patterns across his walls, not merely decorative but functional, stabilizing the competing energies within him during sleep. 3 days had passed since he'd accepted her offer, days of accelerated adaptation to his new reality. Issei studied his reflection as he dressed for school. Physically, little had changed. Same brown hair. Same unremarkable teenage physique. Yet his eyes occasionally flickered with geometric patterns when his concentration lapsed, and his movements had acquired unconscious precision previously absent. Still an odd fit, he murmured, adjusting his uniform collar. The words weren't entirely his own. Gojo's mannerisms occasionally surfaced in moments of self-reflection. The crystal pendant Akeno had given him remained unnecessary. Through deliberate meditative practice, Issei had extended his temporary energy equilibrium into sustained balance, not perfect integration, but functio. Null harmony between draconic power and cursed techniques. He descended to breakfast, hyper-aware of mundane details. His enhanced perception now registered automatically, the exact temperature of morning sunlight striking the kitchen table. The mathematical precision of his mother's movements as she prepared meals, the infinitesimal spaces between physical matter composing seemingly solid objects. You're looking better, his mother observed, serving rice with practiced efficiency. Those headaches finally gone, mostly. Issei accepted the food with a nod of thanks. Just needed to find the right balance. She couldn't possibly understand the literal truth of his statement. His parents remained blissfully unaware of supernatural reality, a protective ignorance Rias had recommended maintaining for their safety. What they didn't know, they couldn't accidentally reveal to potential threats. You've been different lately, his father commented from behind his newspaper. More focused. Whatever it is, keep it up. If you only knew, Issei thought, suppressing an ironic smile. His transformation extended beyond supernatural abilities, his priorities had fundamentally shifted, former obsessions falling away as clarity emerged from competing consciousness. Thanks, I will. He departed with measured steps, school bag slung casually over one shoulder. Matsuda and Motohama waited at their usual meeting point, visibly confused by his continued evolution away from their shared interests. You're still hanging out with that research club? Matsuda demanded without preamble. 3 days of blowing us off for Grimori Senpai and her friends. Issei shrugged, unsure how to bridge the widening gap between his old life and new reality. It's interesting work. What kind of work could possibly be more interesting than Kuo Academy girls? Motohama adjusted his glasses suspiciously. You've completely changed, Man. You don't even react when third-year girls walk by anymore. The observation was accurate enough. Female students who previously captivated his attention now registered primarily as varying energy signatures, some purely human, others concealing supernatural elements beneath ordinary appearances. People change, Issei replied simply, echoing his response from days earlier. Their walk continued in uncomfortable silence, former camaraderie straining under the weight of his unexplainable transformation. By the time they reached school grounds, the conversational gulf had widened beyond casual repair, his friends exchanging concerned glances at his purse. IVED abandonment of their collective identity. Hyodo-kun. The precise voice belonged to Tsubaki, waiting at the school entrance with clipboard held at her customary 45-degree angle. Her blue-rimmed glasses caught morning light as she approached, movements mathematically efficient as always. Student council needs to see you before classes. Her statement combined professional formal ity with subtle urgency only he would recognize. Regarding your special research project. Matsuda and Motohama exchanged meaningful looks that completely misinterpreted the situation. Issei nodded farewell to his increasingly distant friends, following Tsubaki across campus toward the administrative building rather than the old schoolhouse. Not the club room, he questioned quietly. Not today. Tsubaki's voice remained pitched for his enhanced hearing alone. President Citri wishes to meet you officially. Her interest in your condition equals Rias's, though her approach differs substantially. Citri. Issei's brow furrowed, as in Sona Citri, the student council president, heir to House Citri of the 72 Pillars, Tsubaki confirmed with the faintest suggestion of pride. My king, and the administrator of this territory alongside Rias Grimori. The terminology registered from his briefings with Rias's group, king, referred to the leader of a devil's peerage, the chess-themed Eastum devils used to organize their hierarchies and reincarnate non-devils into their ranks. Tsubaki served as Sona's queen, her primary strategic support. They entered the administrative building, bypassing regular offices toward a section Issei had never visited. Tsubaki's hand pressed momentarily against an ordinary-looking door, magic flaring beneath her palm before the entrance reconfigure. Itself into something far more imposing, dark wood inscribed with arcane symbols surrounding the Citri family crest. President, I've brought Hyodo Issei as requested, Tsubaki announced as they entered. The student council room transformed beyond its public appearance revealed sophisticated magical infrastructure disguised as ordinary furniture. Magical calculations ran across seemingly decorative wall panels, monitoring supernatural activity throughout campus and surrounding territory. Sona Citri awaited them, seated behind a desk that functioned simultaneously as administrative workspace and magical command center. Her short black hair and violet eyes presented a study in controlled precision, glasses positioned with mathematical exactness. Unlike Rias's warm charisma, Sona projected analytical intelligence and strategic calculation. Hyodo Issei. Her acknowledgement conveyed thorough assessment rather than mere greeting. Your emergence has created interesting variables in our territorial equations. No pretense, no social niceties, pure intellectual engagement. Issei appreciated her directness. President Citri, he responded, matching her formality. I didn't realize you were aware of my situation. Rias and I maintain information-sharing protocols regarding significant developments affecting Kuo, she stated matter-of-factly. A human simultaneously manifesting dragon energy and previously undocumented spatial manipulation techniques certainly qualifies. She gestured toward an empty chair positioned precisely opposite her desk. Please. This meeting has multiple purposes, one of which involves your theoretical contributions to certain calculations I've been developing. Issei settled into the offered seat, immediately noticing its positioning plaque. Ed him within a subtle magical array inscribed into the flooring, not threatening, but designed to measure energy outputs and frequency patterns. You're analyzing my signatures, he observed without accusation. Sona's expression shifted marginally, the equivalent of surprise from someone with her controlled demeanor. Correct. With permission, naturally. The combination you manifest has significant theoretical implications for power distribution models across supernatural classifications. Translation. You're a fascinating research subject, Tsubaki clarified, taking position beside her king with practiced efficiency. I've reviewed Rias's preliminary findings, Sona continued, manipulating a complex magical display materializing above her desk. Your ability to perceive mathematical relationships underlying physical reality suggests applications beyond conventional spatial manipulation. The display transformed into three-dimensional models of energy patterns, one crimson and draconic, the other blue-white with geometric precision. Issei recognized both instantly as visual representations of his internal powers. "What exactly are you calculating?" he asked, mathematical understanding accelerating his comprehension of the complex formulas surrounding the models. "Convergence dynamics between fundamentally different energy sources," Sona replied, pushing her glasses up with one finger. "Conventional wisdom holds that dragon energy and human-derived magical systems remain fundamentally incompatible beyond surface-level interactions. Your existence challenges this assumption." Issei studied the calculations with unexpected clarity, Gojo's mathematical knowledge surfacing through their developing connection. "Your base equation assumes three-dimensional constraints. The limitless technique operates across 6 dimensions simultaneously." Silence followed his observation, Sona and Tsubaki exchanging significant glances before the council president adjusted her calculations with remarkable speed. "Fascinating," she murmured, reconfigured models displaying dramatically different interactions. "That would explain the anomalous readings at dimensional boundary points. You perceive 6-dimensional mathematics intuitively. When using 6 eyes, yes." Issei traced a pattern in the air, cursed energy manifesting briefly as glowing blue lines that modified Sona's calculations further. "The space between points contains infinite subdivisions, each operating under slightly different mathematical rules." Tsubaki leaned forward, professional composure momentary, Lee giving way to genuine academic excitement. "That's why conventional barrier techniques registered inconsistent results during your initial manifestation. You weren't breaking through established dimensional constraints, you were operating outside their defined parameters entirely." "Precisely." Sona's fingers danced through complex adjustments to her models, integration occurring at accelerated rates. "This fundamentally changes our understanding of dimensional boundary enforcement. Theoretical applications for territory management alone justify further investigation." Their discussion continued through increasingly complex mathematical concepts, Issei contributing insights drawn partially from Gojo's knowledge and partially from his own developing understanding. What began as analytic assessment evolved into collaborative theorizing, Sona's initial clinical detachment giving way to genuine intellectual engagement. The warning bell for first period finally interrupted their session, prompting Sona to collapse the elaborate magical displays with efficient gestures. "Most illuminating," she concluded, the faintest suggestion of respect entering her tone. "I would appreciate continued consultations as your abilities develop further." "Of course." Issei stood, recognizing the intellectual exchange had established relationship parameters different from, yet complementary to, his arrangement with Rias. "Though I'm still learning myself." "Which brings me to my second purpose." Sona produced an ornate key that hummed with magical potential. "This grants access to research materials in the Academy's restricted archives, specifically, historical documentation regarding dimensional manipulation techniques predating the Great Convergence." Issei accepted the key with appropriate gravity, recognizing its significance extended beyond mere library access. "Thank you, President. Tsubaki will provide necessary documentation for your instructors," Sona added. "Your arrangement with Rias necessitates scheduling adjustments for appropriate training time." With formal nods of acknowledgement, their meeting concluded. Tsubaki escorted Issei from the student council's hidden headquarters, magical barriers reconfiguring behind them to maintain secrecy from ordinary students. "President Citri rarely grants unrestricted archive access," Tsubaki noted as they walked. Her interest in your mathematical insights is genuine. She's approaching this differently than Rias," Issei observed. "Different methodologies serving complementary functions," Tsubaki agreed. President Ramori emphasizes practical applications and combat potential. President Citri focuses on theoretical foundations and strategic implications. Together they provide balanced perspective. They parted at the main building entrance, Issei proceeding to class with the ornate key secured in his inner pocket. Despite arriving late, he faced no reprimand, Tsubaki's influence ensuring administrative accommodation of his increasingly complex schedule. Morning classes passed in familiar duality, mundane lessons overlaid with enhanced perception revealing deeper patterns. During literature, Issei found himself analyzing classical poetry through mathematical structures underlying language itself. During history, he perceived causal relationships connecting events across centuries with crystalline clarity. Lunch period found him on the roof again, seeking solitude to process his accelerating evolution. The school grounds spread beneath him, students moving through predictable patterns remaining oblivious to supernatural currents flowing beneath ordinary reality. Mind if I join you? The musical voice belonged to Akeno, approaching with graceful movements that belied her considerable power. Unlike their previous encounters, today she carried 2 bento boxes rather than tea service. Rias mentioned you've been skipping meals to practice meditation, she explained, settling beside him with fluid grace. Proper energy requires proper nutrition. Issei accepted the offered lunch with genuine gratitude, suddenly aware of his neglected hunger. Thank you, Himahima-senpai. Akeno is fine, she corrected, arranging her own meal with precise movements. We're colleagues now, after all. They ate in comfortable silence initially, spring breeze carrying cherry blossoms across the rooftop. Unlike Tsubaki's analytical precision or Rias's warm authority, Akeno projected serene confidence masking deeper complexities, like still waters concealing powerful currents. How are you managing the balance? She finally asked, voice carrying genuine curiosity beneath casual inquiry. Issei considered his response carefully. Better than expected. The meditation techniques you recommended help maintain equilibrium between dragon energy and cursed techniques. Yet you favor the cursed techniques during practice sessions, Akeno observed perceptively. You've barely access the boosted gear's fundamental functions. The assessment was accurate enough. During initial training with Rias's group, Issei had gravitated toward Gojo's abilities, limitless techniques feeling more natural than the draconic power contained within him. The dragon feels distant sometimes, he admitted. Like he's waiting for something specific before fully awakening. Akeno nodded thoughtfully. Sacred gears often respond to emotional catalysts rather than technical proficiency. The boosted gear particularly tends toward dramatic awakening during moments of extreme necessity. As the limitless responds to mathematical understanding and spatial awareness, Issei added, seeing the contrasting activation requirements clearly. Different triggers for different powers. Precisely why balanced development matters. Akeno agreed. Relying exclusively on either power source creates vulnerability when specific activation conditions aren't met. Her insight carried unmistakable personal experience. Issei's enhanced perception detected complex energy patterns beneath her calm exterior, holy lightning intermingled with demonic power in combinations that shouldn't theoretically function together. You manage multiple power sources yourself, he observed, recognizing her expertise wasn't merely academic. Something flickered across Akeno's expression, surprise followed by guarded assessment before settling into measured openness. Perceptive. Yes, my heritage includes elements that traditionally oppose each other, requiring careful balance. Fallen angel and human, Issei guessed, recalling the black feathered wings he'd glimpsed during her arrival at his confrontation with the hostile fallen angel. Fallen angel and human priestess lineage, subsequently reincarnated as devil. She clarified with clinical detachment masking emotional complexity. 3 fundamentally different power signatures requiring precise management. Not unlike your situation in principle, if different in specific energies involved. The personal disclosure represented significant trust. Akeno's background clearly contained painful elements she rarely discussed. Issei recognized the offering for what it was. Not merely information, but connection based on shared experience navigating complex power dynamics. How do you maintain balance between conflicting energies? He asked, a genuine curiosity overriding potential conversational awkwardness. Akeno considered the question with appropriate seriousness. Integration rather than separation. Many practitioners attempt to compartmentalize conflicting powers, maintaining artificial boundaries that ultimately create fracture points during stress. I found greater stability through acknowledging their interconnection, allowing controlled flow between sources rather than rigid separation. Her description resonated with Issei's developing approach to his own dual nature. The preliminary equilibrium he'd established functioned precisely through permitting measured interaction between dragon energy and cursed techniques, rather than forcing complete isolation. That makes sense, he acknowledged. Though controlling the interaction points requires constant awareness, which improves with practice and proper guidance. Akano gathered her empty bento with elegant efficiency. Actually, that's part of why I sought you out today. I'd like to offer specialized training focusing specifically on energy integration techniques. Different from what Rias has scheduled. Complementary, Akano clarified. Rias emphasizes individual power development. I specialize in harmonic convergence between disparate energy sources. My background provides unique perspective your situation requires. The offer represented more an additional training. It established personal connection outside group dynamics, relationship distinct from his general arrangement with Rias's club. Issei recognized both the practical benefits and implicit significance. I'd appreciate that, he replied sincerely. When do we start? Tonight, if you're available. My family maintains a shrine outside city limits, sacred ground with properties conducive to energy harmonization work. Akano's smile combined warmth with subtle anticipation. Rias knows, of course. She agrees your situation benefits from specialized attention. Their conversation continued through lunch period, focusing on technical aspects of supernatural energy management while establishing comfortable rapport. By the time the warning bell signaled afternoon classes, Issei had gained both practical knowledge and deeper appreciation for Akano's multifaceted nature beyond her composed school persona. Afternoon lessons passed with increasing detachment from mundane concerns. Issei's awareness split between ordinary classroom activities and developing understanding of his evolving capabilities. By final bell, anticipation for evening training with Akano had largely overshadowed academic matters entirely. Rather than proceeding directly to the occult research club as had become his routine, Issei followed provided directions toward the school gate, where Akano awaited with a traditional paper umbrella despite cloudless skies. Protection from prying eyes rather than weather, she explained, opening the ornate parasol as they departed campus together. Certain factions maintain aerial surveillance of supernatural activity. Traditional methods often circumvent modern monitoring techniques. The explanation highlighted Akano's distinct approach, blending ancient practices with practical adaptations, tradition serving function rather than mere formality. They proceeded through quiet residential districts toward the city's outskirts, conversation shifting between casual observations and deeper discussions of theoretical energy dynamics. Eventually, urban developments gave way to forested hillsides, traditional stone steps appearing between ancient trees marking their approach to sacred ground. Torii gates materialized along their path, each vibrating with subtle energies Issei's developing senses detected with increasing clarity. Boundary markers, Akano explained, noting his attention to the gates. Each represents transition between mundane space and progressively sacred dimensions. The shrine exists simultaneously in physical reality and spiritual realm. Accessibility determined by visitors' nature and intent. The stairs seem to extend beyond physical possibility, distance expanding through dimensional manipulation rather than geographical space. Issei recognized mathematical patterns underlying the spatial distortion, not unlike his own limitless technique, though implemented through different fundamental principles. This predates the Great Convergence, he observed, reading historical signatures embedded within the dimensional constructs. Pure Shinto methodology without devil or angel influence. Akano nodded approvingly. Very good. The shrine has maintained its original consecration through 17 generations of my mother's family, resisting supernatural convergence through specialized barrier techniques. They emerged finally into a clearing containing traditional shrine buildings, main worship hall, living quarters, and auxiliary structures arranged according to precise geomantic principles. Cherry tea. Wreaths in perpetual bloom surrounded the complex, petals drifting through spiritually charged air regardless of external seasons. We're effectively between worlds here, Akano continued, closing her parasol as they passed the final Torii gate. Time flows differently. External observation becomes impossible, and energy manipulation occurs without conventional limitations. She led him toward Issei. Kandari building separated from the main shrine complex, simpler architecture featuring open walls overlooking meticulously maintained rock garden. Within, tatami mats surrounded a central fire pit containing blue-white flames that burned without fuel or smoke. The harmonization chamber, Akeno explained, gesturing for Issei to remove his shoes before entering. Sacred fire drawn from the boundary between physical and spiritual planes, specifically attuned to energy purification and integration practices. Issei settled cross-legged on indicated matting, immediately sensing the chamber's unique properties. Ambient energy flowed in precise patterns throughout the structure, creating mathematical harmony his six eyes perceived with perfect clarity. The space was specifically designed for work involving multiple power sources, architectural elements facilitating controlled interaction between potentially conflicting energies. "This is incredible," he acknowledged, appreciation genuine. "I can see the energy flows perfectly." Quote, "My ancestors constructed this chamber specifically for practitioners with mixed heritage," Akeno explained, arranging herself opposite him with practiced grace. Shrine maidens who married yokai, priests with divine blessing, spiritualists with natural affinities for multiple elements, all faced similar challenges balancing disparate powers. She extended her hands, palms up. In traditional meditation posture, we'll begin with basic harmonization exercises. Focus your awareness on both power sources simultaneously without favoring either. Allow them to manifest equally within your consciousness. Issei mirrored her posture, closing his eyes initially before allowing six eyes perception to activate partially. Within his internal landscape, the distinct energies pulsed with increasing strength. Crimson dragon power radiating primal force, blue-white cursed energy maintaining precise geometric boundaries. Under Akeno's patient guidance, he practiced directing these energies through increasingly complex patterns, establishing controlled interaction points rather than rigid separation or complete integration. The sacred fire responded to their work, fluctuating between vibrant colors as different energy combinations manifested within the chamber. "You have remarkable natural aptitude," Akeno observed after particularly successful convergence exercise. "Most practitioners require months to achieve the control you've demonstrated in a single session. It helps having previous lifetime experience," Issei acknowledged, recognizing Gojo's implicit contributions to his accelerated development. Though the dragon energy remains partially dormant despite these exercises. Akeno nodded thoughtfully. Sacred gears containing conscious entities like heavenly dragons often require emotional catalysts beyond technical practice. Drag is likely observing, evaluating your worthiness before fully engaging. "Evaluating me," Issei echoed, surprised despite their previous dream conversation. "I thought we were already partners." "Partnership with dragons involves complex dynamics," Akeno explained, adjusting her position as sacred fire shifted to deep purple hues. "They've experienced countless hosts throughout millennia, some worthy, others disappointing. Heavenly dragons particularly choose carefully when fully investing in their current vessel." The explanation resonated with something Drag had mentioned during their dreamscape encounter, questions about how Issei would use the power once fully awakened. Not merely technical capability, but fundamental purpose and character assessment. Their training continued through complex exercises blending meditation, energy manipulation, and theoretical discussion. Akeno proved exceptionally knowledgeable regarding integrated power systems, her personal experience managing fallen angel, human, and devil energies providing invaluable practical insight beyond academic understanding. Hours passed within the chamber's altered temporal field, though Issei's body registered minimal fatigue despite intensive practice. The sacred fire provided continuous energy renewal, preventing depletion while facilitating deeper access to his developing abilities. Eventually, Akeno signaled conclusion to their formal training, sacred fire diminishing to steady blue glow as they transitioned from structured exercises to reflective conversation. "You've accomplished more in one session than many achieve in months," she noted, genuine respect evident beneath professional assessment. "Your natural integration potential exceeds initial projections." "Thanks to your guidance," Issei acknowledged sincerely. "The techniques you've shown me create possibilities I hadn't considered." Something shifted in Akeno's expression, professional instructor briefly giving way to more personal connection. "May I ask something potentially sensitive?" "Of course. When you access your previous incarnation's memories and abilities," she began carefully, "how distinct does his personality feel from your own? Do you experience him as separate consciousness, or integrated aspect of yourself?" The question revealed deeper purpose behind her specialized interest in his condition, personal resonance beyond academic curiosity or professional responsibility. Issei considered his response with appropriate care, recognizing its significance. Initially separate, he answered honestly, like accessing someone else's memories and knowledge, but increasingly integrated as I practice, less distinction between his abilities and mine, more natural flow between past and present consciousness. Akeno nodded thoughtfully. Integration rather than compartmentalization. You're establishing identity that incorporates previous experience without being dominated by it. Exactly. Issei recognized her analytical precision. Though certain mannerisms and perspectives definitely carry through, confidence patterns, analytical approaches, even specific phrases sometimes. Yet fundamentally, you remain Issei Hyodo, she observed. Incorporating rather than becoming. Yes, the distinction felt critically important. Though he hadn't previously articulated it so clearly. I'm accessing what he knew and could do, but choosing my own applications and purpose. Satisfaction flickered across Akeno's expression, as if his answer confirmed important hypothesis. That balanced approach ultimately creates greater strength than either resistance or surrender to previous identity. Integration without loss of self. The observation carried unmistakable personal significance. Akeno clearly navigated similar challenges balancing fallen angel heritage with her current existence. Their Red experience with multiple identities created connection beyond technical training relationship, mutual understanding transcending conventional categorization. Comfortable silence followed, sacred. Fire casting gentle illumination throughout the chamber as evening deepened outside dimensional boundaries. Eventually, Akeno rose with fluid grace. We should conclude for tonight. Even with the shrine's temporal adjustments, you'll need proper rest before tomorrow's regular training with Rias. They departed the harmonization chamber, emerging into shrine grounds now illuminated by paper lanta. RNS glowing with subtle spiritual energy rather than conventional electricity. The entire complex radiated peaceful antiquity, sharp contrast to modern urban environments beyond sacred boundaries. Why? You're welcome to return whenever you wish to continue specialized training, Akeno offered as they followed stone pathway toward main gates. The shrine recognizes you now. You can access it directly without escort. The privilege represented significant trust, access to ancient family sanctuary beyond formal arrangement with Rias's group. Issei recognized both practical value and deeper personal significance. Thank you, he replied sincerely, for everything today. Akeno's smile combined warmth with subtle complexity. Serene Shrine Maiden and powerful supernatural practitioner simultaneously. Integration creates possibilities beyond isolated development. Our complementary experiences benefit mutual growth. Their return journey passed through dimensional transitions with greater speed than their arrival. Sacred space releasing them into ordinary reality near city limits. Night had fallen completely, stars visible above urban glow illuminating their path toward residential districts. I can find my way from here, Issei assured her when they reached major intersection. Thank you again for today's training. Until tomorrow, then. Akeno departed with graceful nod. Traditiona. Paper umbrella opened once more despite clear night skies, protection against supernatural surveillance resuming in ordinary space. Issei proceeded homeward through quiet streets, mind processing Day's extraordinary developments while body maintained casual teenage appearance. His parents accepted his explanation about study group running late, ordinary concerns creating surreal contrast against his accelerating supernatural evolution. Later, alone in his room, Issei settled into meditation posture practiced during shrine training. Crystal formations hanging from his window cast mathematical patterns across walls, stabilizing energies while facilitating controlled manifestation practice. With deliberate concentration, he extended his awareness inward toward the increasingly familiar dual energy sources. Getting the hang of it, aren't you? The voice materialized within his consciousness, not external sound but direct communication. Unlike their previous dreamscape conversation, Gojo's presence now integrated more seamlessly with Issei's awareness, boundary between separate identities increasingly permeable. The shrine training helped, Issei responded internally, maintaining meditative state. Integration rather than separation. Smart approach. Gojo's mental presence radiated casual confidence. Fighting your own abilities gets you nowhere. Better to work with what you've got. However it got there. Curious, Issei directed conscious attention toward his other internal inhabitant. What about you, Drake? Any thoughts on today's training? Silence extended momentarily before deep, resonant communication rumbled through his consciousness. The fallen angel's daughter offers valuable instruction, Drake acknowledged, mental voice substantially errant from Gojo's casual tones, ancient, powerful, carrying weight of millennia. Though true awakening requires more than technical exercise. What exactly are you waiting for? Issei questioned directly. Akeno mentioned emotional catalysts, but what specifically activates full partnership? Worthy intention, the dragon replied after measured consideration. Power without purpose lacks meaning. Previous vessels sought strength for conquest, revenge, domination, base motivations limiting potential despite technical proficiency. The assessment aligned with Akeno's explanation Riga. Drag's selective engagement with hosts throughout history. Unlike Gojo's abilities, which responded primarily to mathematical understanding and technical application, the dragon's power NTLY required alignment with specific character qualities and motivations. He's picky, Gojo commented with characteristic irreverence. I'm more practical. Power's power, application determines worth rather than abstract qualification. Precisely the philosophical difference creating integration challenges, Drake observed with surprising insight. The sorcerer prioritizes capability, the dragon values intention. The exchange illuminated fundamental distinction between his power sources, different activation requirements reflecting different fundamental natures. Cursed techniques responded to technical understanding regardless of motivation. Dragon energy required specific emotional and ethical alignment before fully manifesting. So I need both, Issei concluded, seeing E-graded path forward with newfound clarity. Technical proficiency and worthy purpose together create balanced development. Agreement resonated from both internal entities, rare moment of philosophie. Alignment between fundamentally different consciousness patterns. The conversation continued through increasingly sophisticated technical discussion, Gojo explaining mathematical principles underlying limitless techniques. Drake describing draconic energy's unique properties across dimensional boundaries. Meditation extended into productive training session despite physical absence of external instructors. Issei's developing abilities allowing increasingly independent practice supervised by internalized guidance. By the time he concluded exercises, significant progress had occurred across both power systems. Not complete integration, but strengthened foundations supporting continued development. Sleep came easily despite intensive practice, enhanced recovery capabilities accelerating. Physical regeneration while mental processes continued organizing exponentially expanding knowledge base. Dreams flowed through structured narratives rather than chaotic fragments, training scenarios, theoretical applications. Historical contexts from both Gojo's experiences and Drake's ancient memories. Morning arrived with mathematical precision, sunlight striking crystal formations at precisely calculated angles to project awakening patterns across Issei's bedroom walls. He rose feeling fundamentally refreshed despite intensive activity, supernatural energies providing regenerative benefits beyond normal human recovery capabilities. School preparations proceeded with unconscious efficiency, movements incorporating martial precision previously absent from his behavioral patterns. His Thayer noticed the change during breakfast, commenting with maternal perceptiveness. You're moving differently lately. More. She paused, seeking appropriate description, purposeful, somehow. Like, everything's exactly where you mean it to be. Issei smiled, appreciating her observation while maintaining necessary secrecy regarding its supernatural cause. Just feeling more focused lately. Things are making sense in different ways. Well, whatever it is, it suits you, she concluded approvingly. You seem more yourself, somehow. The observation struck deeper than she could possibly realize. His accelerating integration creating authenticity beyond his previous existence rather than artificial personality change. He wasn't becoming someone different, but rather more completely himself. Through incorporating previously inaccessible aspects. Departing for school, Issei found himself alone rather than meeting Matsuda and Motohama at their usual gathering point. The separation from Hai's former friends continued widening, natural consequence of fundamentally diverging life paths rather than deliberate rejection. They remained trapped in ordinary teenage patterns while his existence expanded beyond conventional human experience. The solitary walk provided opportunity for quiet reflection, reviewing previous days' training while planning integration with scheduled activities. Rias had arranged afternoon combat practice focusing on practical applications rather than theoretical foundations, complementary approach to Akino's integration-centered methodology. As he approached school grounds, unexpected energy signature registered against his developing supernatural awareness. Familiar yet distinctive, complex power pattern radiating from nearby park rather than academy campus. Curious, Issei diverted from his usual route, following the signature toward its source. Cherry trees surrounded small playground, blossoms drifting across empty swing sets and climbing structures designed for younger children. The area should have been deserted this early, school students already proceeding toward campus, parents with young children not yet visiting public facilities. Instead, a solitary figure occupied central bench, traditional kimono distinctive against modern surroundings. Black hair fell in elegant waves around delicate features displaying inhuman beauty beyond conventional standards. Amber eyes tracked his approach with feline precision, expression combining amusement with predatory assessment. "Morning, Dragon Boy," Kuroka greeted casually, stretching with distinctly cat-like grace. "Thought you might notice my invitation." Issei approached cautiously, remembering their previous encounter and subsequent warnings from Rias regarding the Nekomata's complicated status. Deliberately projecting your signature isn't exactly subtle. Subtlety's overrated when you want specific attention. She patted the bench beside her with deliberate invitation. "Besides, your sensory range has improved significantly since our last meeting. Thought I'd acknowledge the progress." Despite legitimate caution, Issei found himself accepting the invitation, settling beside her while maintaining appropriate alertness. His enhanced perception detected no immediate threats. The area remained free from additional supernatural presences beyond themselves. "What do you want, Kuroka?" he asked directly, calculating defensive options while maintaining casual exterior. She smiled, expression combining genuine amusement with approving assessment. "Direct approach. I like that." She tilted her head, studying him with unnerving intensity. "Your energy signatures evolved since our last meeting. More integrated. The dragon's still mostly dormant, but that other power." Her eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Interesting combination you're developing." "You didn't answer my question," Issei pressed. "So serious." Kuroka's posture remained deliberately casual despite the intensity of her observation. "Fine. I'm here because you present fascinating variables in otherwise predictable scenarios. Devil Princess claims territory protection, Fallen Angel Shrine Maiden provides specialized training. Even Citri Air grants special access to restricted archives, all racing to establish influence over unprecedented power combination." The assessment was uncomfortably accurate. Multiple supernatural factions had indeed moved quickly to establish connections following his awakening. What remained unclear was Kuroka's own interest amid these competing influences. "And your stake in this?" Issei questioned directly. "Independent perspective," she replied with surprising candor. "Unlike territorial devils or factional representatives, I operate outside conventional supernatural politics. Gives me unique viewpoint regarding your situation's implications, which are potentially revolutionary." Serious calculation replaced playful demeanor, revealing intellectual depth beneath casual exterior. "You're manifesting power combination that theoretically shouldn't function together. Dragon energy and specialized cursed techniques simultaneously occupying single vessel without immediate self-destruction. The mathematical improbability alone merits investigation, beyond obvious combat applications." Her analysis displayed surprising sophistication, theoretical understanding exceeding casual observation. Despite her outward appearance and reputation, Kuroka clearly possessed substantial knowledge regarding supernatural energy dynamics and mathematical probability calculations. "You know about cursed techniques," Issei observed, testing her knowledge depth. "I'm yokai, kid," she gestured dismissively. "We existed alongside jujutsu sorcerers for centuries before the Great Convergence scrambled everything." Different methodologies addressing similar metaphysical principles. The casual reference contained significant historical context Issei hadn't NTERED in Rias's educational materials, connection between yokai existence and jujutsu sorcery traditions suggesting knowledge pathway beyond devil records. The devils don't have complete information about my abilities, he realized aloud. Of course not. Kuroka seemed genuinely amused by his surprise. Devils document everything meticulously, but they're relatively recent players in supernatural history. Yokai, spirits, curses, we operated under completely different metaphysical frameworks before convergence forced system integration. She leaned closer, voice lowering conspiratorially. Why? Our devil friends can teach dragon aspects adequately, sacred gears fall within their documented expertise. But those eyes of yours, the spatial manipulation techniques, those originated in completely different magical ecosystem. The information created important context for limitations he'd noticed in Rias's training approach, technical gaps regarding his cursed technique development despite comprehensive knowledge about draconic manifestations. Sona's interest in mathematical theory suddenly appeared more significant, attempt to bridge knowledge gaps through theoretical modeling rather than empirical experience. And you have information they don't, Issei concluded, seeing her purpose with increasing clarity. Smart boy. Kuroka's approval seemed genuine despite her predatory demeanor. I'm offering complementary perspective, historical context devils simply don't possess regarding curse energy manipulation and Six Eyes techniques specifically. The offer contained obvious value despite equally obvious risks. Kuroka's complicated relationship with devil authorities suggested potential complications beyond mere information exchange. Yet the knowledge gap she identified represent significant developmental limitation requiring consideration. Why help me? Issei questioned directly. What's your actual interest here? Kuroka studied him thoughtfully, calculation evident beneath casual exterior. After measured consideration, she responded with surprising honesty. 3 reasons. First, practical self-interest. Someone manifesting your specific power combination represents significant variable in supernatural power distribution. Better to establish positive relationship than potential opposition. Second, genuine academic curiosity. Your mathematical improbability fascinates me on theoretical level. Third, she hesitated, uncharacteristic uncertainty briefly visible. Let's call it investment in potential counterbalance against certain political developments. Final reason contained deliberate ambiguity, yet suggested complex motivations beyond simple opportunism or academic interest. Something in supernatural politics concerned her sufficiently to risk roaching him despite potential complications. I'll consider your offer, Issei stated carefully, neither accepting nor rejecting outright. But I maintain existing commitments that take priority. Naturally. Kuroka stood with fluid grace, stretching languidly before producing small wooden token carved with complex symbols. When you're ready for information devils don't possess, activate this. One-time use. Connects directly to my personal dimensional pocket. Issei accepted the token cautiously, Six Eyes automatically analyzing its construction, legitimately functional communication device without obvious tracking or monitoring capabilities. Simple yet elegant magical craftsmanship displaying sophisticated understanding of dimensional boundaries. Until next time, Dragon Boy. Kuroka's form blurred at the edges, reality distorting subtly around her. Don't let them tell you everything's binary, light and dark, angel and devil, right and wrong. The interesting stuff always happens in between. She vanished without conventional movement, not teleportation but dimensional slippage, passing between overlapping realities rather than traversing physical space. The technique displayed mastery beyond standard yokai abilities, suggesting advanced training consistent with her claims regarding specialized knowledge. Alone in the deserted park, Issei examined the wooden token more carefully, analyzing its magical properties while considering broader implications of the encounter. Kuroka represented unexpected variable among growing network of supernatural connections, neither ally nor enemy in conventional terms. Operating according to separate agenda with potential value despite obvious complications. The warning bell for first period interrupted his contemplation, prompting accelerated progress toward campus. Despite being technically late, Issei encountered no resistance entering school grounds, Rias's arrangements ensuring administrative flexibility regarding his increasingly complicated schedule. Morning classes passed with familiar duality, outward participation in mundane education while inner awareness processed expanding supernatural understanding. The wooden token remained secure in his pocket, physical reminder of growing complexity surrounding his evolving existence. Multiple factions, competing interests, overlapping knowledge bases, his awakening abilities attracted attention across supernatural spectrum rather than within single hierarchical structure. By lunch period, Issei had formulated preliminary approach balancing multiple information sources without creating unnecessary conflict between potential allies. The Devils provided structured training environment and territorial protection. Akeno offered specialized integration techniques through shrine access. Kuroka represented potential knowledge source regarding aspects his official allies lacked complete information about. Navigation between these complementary resources required diplomatic care rather than exclusive alignment, balanced approach consistent with his developing integration philosophy regarding internal powers. Just as cursed techniques and dragon energy function most effectively through controlled harmony rather than dominance or isolation, his external relationships similarly benefited from balanced engagement rather than exclusive loyalty. He settled at isolated courtyard table, deliberately separating from normal social patterns to process complex developments without interruption. The quiet meal provided necessary mental space between intensive natural engagement and ordinary academic requirements, temporary respite from accelerating evolution. You missed this morning's training session. The precise voice belonged to Tsubaki, approaching with clipboard held at customary angle, blue-rimmed glasses catching midday sunlight. Her expression remained professionally neutral despite implicit question underlying her observation. I encountered unexpected variable requiring assessment, Issei replied carefully, deliberately using terminology matching her analytical communication style. Tsubaki settled opposite him with mathematical precision. Clipboard positioned exactly parallel to table edge. Variable with distinctive energy signature registering on multiple monitoring systems. The question confirmed his suspicion regarding supernatural surveillance throughout Kuo territory. Sona's monitoring arrays had detected Kuroka's deliberately projected presence despite attempts at avoiding official notice. Kuroka approached me directly, Issei acknowledged, seeing little benefit in concealment. Offering information regarding aspects of my abilities she claims Devils lack complete documentation about. Rather than immediate concern, Tsubaki displayed thoughtful consideration, analytical assessment rather than reflexive rejection. Interesting approach on her part. Did she provide substantiating evidence regarding these supposed knowledge gaps? Historical context suggesting cursed techniques originated in separate magical ecosystem predating devil documentation systems, Issei summarized. Specific reference to I operating alongside jujutsu sorcerers before the Great Convergence. Tsubaki's expression shifted subtly, the academic equivalent of surprised recognition. That aligns with certain inconsistencies in our historical records. The convergence created significant documentation disruption across supernatural archival systems. Her acknowledgement confirmed Kuroka's central claim, the Devil's possessed incomplete information regarding certain aspects of his abilities, particularly those derived from Gojo's reincarnated techniques. The confirmation validated consideration of supplementary knowledge sources despite potential complications. President Citri would find this development significant, Tsubaki continued thoughtfully. Particularly regarding our ongoing dimensional boundary research. I'll provide complete briefing during scheduled consultation this afternoon, Issei assured her. Including analysis of communication device Kuroka provided. Tsubaki nodded with precise acknowledgement. Appropriate protocol. President Rimori should likewise be informed, given territorial security implications. Their conversation continued through technical assessment of morning's encounter. Tsubaki's analytical approach providing valuable external perspective regarding potential benefits and complications. By lunch period's conclusion, they had established preliminary information sharing framework preserving existing alliance commitments while allowing careful consideration of supplementary knowledge sources. Your integrated approach shows promising development, he observed as they gathered their belongings before afternoon classes. Balancing multiple information sources without creating unnecessary conflict represents sophisticated strategic thinking. The assessment carried genuine professional approval despite her typically reserved demeanor. Issei recognized both the compliment and implicit support regarding his developing methodology. Integration creates possibilities beyond isolated development, he replied, deliberately echoing Akino's phrasing from previous training session. Tsubaki's expression suggested recognition of the reference, mom. Enteri connection beyond professional assessment. Indeed it does. Afternoon consultations will proceed as scheduled. President Citri particularly anticipates your input regarding six-dimensional mathematical modeling applications. They parted with professional nods, returning to their respective academic schedules while processing broader implications of morning's developments. Issei proceeded her afternoon classes with increasing detachment from mundane concerns, awareness focused primarily on preparing comprehensive assessment for scheduled supernatural consultations. By final bell, He had organized complex information into structured framework balancing multiple perspectives without creating unnecessary conflict. The approach reflected his developing integration philosophy, Akino. Ledging value in diverse information sources while maintaining central identity and purpose beyond specific factional alignments. Emerging from classroom building, Issei found Kiba waiting with Chara. Ceteristic casual grace that belied his combat capabilities. The blonde swordsman acknowledged him with friendly nod, offering no indication of awareness regarding morning's unexpected encounter. Bushu sent me to escort you, Kiba explained as they walked toward old school building. Schedule adjustment. Combat training first, then theory session with President Citri afterward. Makes sense, Issei acknowledged. Physical application before mathematical modeling provides practical context for theoretical development. Kiba glanced sideways with analytical assessment beneath friendly exterior. You're speaking differently lately. More precisely, somehow. Like everything has specific mathematical meaning. The observation mirrored his mother's earlier comment regarding physical movement. Hence, unconscious behavioral changes reflecting deeper integration between current identity and reincarnated abilities. Mannerisms, speech patterns, analytical approaches gradually harmonizing across previously separate consciousness patterns. Integration effect, Issei explained simply. Balancing influences rather than compartmentalizing. It suits you, Kiba observed with genuine approval. Quote, creating something new rather than simply accessing previous patterns. They reached the old school building, protective wards recognizing their signatures without requiring conscious activation. Inside, the Occult Research Club headquarters had been temporarily reconfigured for combat training, furniture removed, magical barriers established around central practice area, monitoring equipment posy. Tion strategically throughout the space. Rias awaited them, crimson hair contrasting dramatically against white training uniform modified for supernatural combat applications. Nearby, Kaneko adjusted protective wrappings around her hands with mechanical precision, white hair framing expressionless features that betrayed no emotion despite focused preparation. Issei, Rias greeted him warmly. Ready for practical application training? Absolutely, he confirmed, genuine enthusiasm matching her positive energy. Despite theoretical interest in meditative practice, actual combat applicatio represented exciting development beyond conceptual understanding. Excellent. Today we're focusing on defensive applications first, establishing proper protection protocols before offensive capability development. Rias gestured toward prepared training area. Kaneko will provide measured physical challenges while you practice spatial manipulation defenses. Gradually increasing intensity allows controlled development without unnecessary risk. The structured approach made perfect sense, establishing fundamental defensive capabilities before exploring offensive applications. Issei appreciated the methodical development strategy despite growing confidence in his accelerating abilities. Training proceeded through carefully designed progression, initial exercises establishing basic parameter awareness, followed by increasingly complex defensive scenarios requiring adaptive response. Kaneko proved ideal training partner, precise control allowing exactly calibrated challenge levels without excessive risk. Superhuman strength contained within careful technical parameters. Throughout exercises, Rias provided analytical commentary while Kiba demonstrated complementary techniques drawing his own specialized combat experience. The collaborative approach created comprehensive learning environment beyond individual instruction, multiple perspectives enriching overall development process. Your spatial awareness is developing remarkably, Rias observed after particularly successful defensive sequence. The mathematical precision in your barrier configuration suggests application beyond conventional protection techniques. Infinity exists between any 2 points, Issei explained, the phrase emerging naturally from integrated knowledge base. By manipulating spatial relationships precisely, I can create defensive boundaries that don't merely block incoming force but render it mathematically irrelevant through dimensional displacement. Rias's expression combined Academ, I see fascination with practical appreciation. That's fundamentally different from traditional devil barrier methodology. Our approach typically relies on countering incoming energy with proportional opposing force, essentially power versus power equations. Your technique circumvents the energy requirement entirely through spatial manipulation. Different magical traditions operating from different fundamental principles. Issei acknowledged Kuroka's earlier observations regarding separate magical ecosystems providing relevant context. Integration creates possibilities beyond either system individually. Their training continued through increasingly sophisticated applications, Issei's defensive capabilities expanding dramatically through deliberate practice. By session's conclusion, he had demonstrated substantial progress implementing theoretical understanding into practical combat techniques, not complete mastery, but accelerating development beyond initial projections. You continue exceeding expectations, Rias noted with genuine approval as they concluded formal exercises. Tomorrow we'll begin exploring offensive applications building on today's defensive foundations. Before that, Issei began carefully. There's something I should report regarding this morning. He provided comprehensive briefing regarding Kuroka's approach, including her specific claims about knowledge gaps in devil documentation systems and offered historical context regarding cursed techniques. Rather than defensive rejection, Rias displayed thoughtful consideration consistent with her scholarly approach to supernatural developments. Interesting, she acknowledged when he concluded. Her assessment regarding documentation limitations actually aligns with certain research challenges I've encountered. The Great Convergence created significant archival disruption across supernatural systems. Historical records from before that event often contain critical gaps. So she was telling truth about devils having incomplete information. Issei confirmed. Partially, Rias clarified, we certainly maintain extensive records, but supernatural history spans civilizations and dimensional planes. No single faction possesses complete documentation, particularly regarding traditions that deliberately maintain separation before forced integration during convergence. Her acknowledged GM provided important context regarding knowledge distribution across supernatural factions, complementary rather than comprehensive information sources creating more complete understanding through combined perspective than any individual tradition could provide independently. Which supports balanced consideration of multiple information sources, Issei concluded, seeing broader implications. Precisely. Rias nodded approvingly. Though Kuroka specifically presents certain complications given her status and history, caution remains appropriate despite potential informational value. Their discussion continued through nuanced assessment of potential benefits and risks regarding expanded information sources, Rias demonstrating sophisticated strategic thinking beyond her apparent age. By conversation's conclusion, they had established preliminary framework allowing careful consideration of supplementary knowledge while maintaining appropriate security protocols. Your consultation WITH President Citri should proceed as scheduled, Rias concluded, glancing at ornate clock adorning club room wall. The mathematical modeling applications will benefit from today's practical demonstrations. With respectful farewells to assembled club members, Issei departed for scheduled meeting with Sona, mind processing exponentially expanding understanding of his evolving capabilities and their broader implications. Each training session, each conversation, each new perspective added dimension to his developing comprehension, theoretical foundations and practical applications combining into increasingly sophisticated integrated framework. The academy grounds appeared transformed through his evolving perception, ordinary physical structures overlaid with complex energy patterns visible only to his enhanced awareness. What appeared as simple school buildings to normal human perception revealed themselves as sophisticated magical constructs serving multiple dimensional functions simultaneously. Approaching the administrative building housing student council headquarters, Issei reflected on the extraordinary transformation accelerating through his existence. In mere days, his reality had expanded beyond conventional human limitations into multidimensional understanding encompassing mathematical precision and supernatural capability previously unimaginable. Yet despite these dramatic changes, his core identity remained intact, not replaced, but enhanced through integration with reincarnated abilities and draconic potential. He wasn't becoming someone else, but rather more completely himself through incorporating previously inaccessible aspects of existence. Whatever emerged from this accelerating evolution, one thing remained certain: the possibilities were truly limitless. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Convergence. Moonlight filtered through dimensional barriers surrounding Kuo Academy's restricted archive, casting mathematical patterns across ancient texts spread before Issei. 3 weeks had passed since his awakening, 3 weeks of accelerated development, intensive training, and expanding supernatural awareness. Midnight research had become routine, sleep requirements diminishing as his physiology evolved beyond human limitations. The convergence patterns are unmistakable, Issei murmured, tracing complex symbols adorning a pre-convergence manuscript. Repetition across unrelated sources suggests deliberate documentation rather than coincidental reference. Sona's special access key had unlocked sections of the supernatural archive unavailable even to most devils, revealing fragmented references to phenomena matching his emerging condition. Ancient prophetic texts, scholarly treatises from extinct magical traditions, forbidden research journals, all contain scattered references to theoretical convergence between dragon energy and specialized curse techniques. They knew it was possible, Gojo's voice commented within his consciousness, integration between their awareness now functioning smoothly after weeks of practice. Though none of these writers ever witnessed actual manifestation, theoretical potential rarely manifests in practice, Drake added. The dragon's communication growing increasingly frequent as their connection strengthened. Metaphysical compatibility does not guarantee successful integration. The internal conversation continued seamlessly while Issei's hands maintained independent activity, cataloging relevant information into specialized notebooks utilizing mathematical shorthand he developed for supernatural research. His multitasking capabilities had expanded dramatically, consciousness operating across multiple levels simultaneously without confusion or performance degradation. A slight ion in ambient magical patterns announced arrival before physical senses could detect presence. Issei didn't look up from his work, recognition automatic. President Citri. Sona emerged from Diamond's ional overlay connecting archive to student council headquarters, magical transit system allowing instantaneous movement between secured locations. Her violet eyes assessed his research spread with clinical precision, glasses reflecting arcane illumination from enchanted manuscripts. Productive evening, she inquired, voice calibrated precisely for archive acoustics, audible without disturbing sensitive magical materials. Extremely. Issei indicated particularly ancient scroll positioned beneath specialized containment field. This pre-convergence prophecy specifically references cursed drive, Agon, manifestation occurring at pivotal dimensional intersection point. Given estimated composition date, it predates modern knowledge of sacred gear systems entirely. Sona examined the indicated text with appropriate scholarly interest. Analytical mind processing implications with characteristic efficiency. The temporal reference points correlate with predicted dimensional stress patterns in our current cycle. If these calculations are accurate, we're approaching significant boundary instability within this century. The observation aligned with fragmentary evidence Issei had assembled across multiple research sessions, mathematical patterns suggesting accelerating disturbance in dimensional boundaries separating supernatural realms. Something fundamental was shifting in metaphysical architecture underlying reality itself. I've been correlating energy signature analysis from multiple sources, Issei explained, retrieving secondary notebook filled with complex calculations. The results suggest my condition represents adaptation response to boundary instability rather than random manifestation. Deliberate emergence rather than coincidental occurrence. Sona accepted the notebook with appropriate gravity, reviewing his calculations with genuine intellectual engagement. Despite her youth by devil standards, her mathematical comprehension exceeded most senior researchers, on reason their academic collaboration had proven exceptionally productive. Your six-dimensional modeling applications continue providing insights conventional analysis missed, she acknowledged, recognizing patterns invisible to standard perception. This suggests intelligent design underlying apparent randomness, deliberate metaphysical engineering rather than evolutionary development. Their discussion continued through increasingly sophisticated theoretical territory, boundary mathematics, dimensional intersection properties, metaphysical adaptation theory. Unlike conversations with Rias focusing on practical applications, or Akino emphasizing energy integration techniques, interactions with Sona prioritized pure theoretical understanding without immediate implementation requirements. Eventually, Sona gestured toward specialized chronometric device mounted on archive wall. You have training with Rias scheduled in 4 hours. Proper recovery periods remain necessary despite your enhanced regeneration capabilities. The reminder represented genuine concern beneath professional detachment, Sona's analytical personality expressing consideration through practical observation rather than emotional display. Issei appreciated both the sentiment and its precise expression, characteristics he'd come to value in their developing intellectual partnership. I'll conclude shortly, he assured her, organizing research materials with practiced efficiency. The energy integration exercises with Akino-san yesterday significantly improved recovery metrics. 6 hours activity now requires only 2 hours recovery rather than conventional 8-hour sleep cycle. Sona nodded with clinical satisfaction. Impressive adaptation rate. Your physiological evolution continues exceeding projected development curves across all measured parameters. The observation wasn't mere flattery but accurate assessment. His supernatural development had accelerated beyond initial projections across all training programs. Combat capabilities, magical theory, physiological adaptation, energy management, all advanced at rates confounding conventional expectations despite careful monitoring. With meticulous organization preserving complex research configuration for subsequent sessions, Issei secured irreplaceable manuscripts within specialized containment fields before activating personal trans. Its circle Sona had authorized for his exclusive use. Magical energy flared briefly as dimensional mathematics executed precise calculations, relocating him instantaneously to prepared arrival point near his home. The residential street stood empty at this late hour, ordinary houses containing sleeping humans blissfully ignorant of supernatural currents transforming reality around them. Protective wards surrounding his family's home glowed subtly to his enhanced perception. Security measures established by Rias's group ensuring his parents remained untargeted by potential supernatural threats. Inside, Issei moved silently through darkened hallways, practiced movements avoiding every creaking floorboard through perfect spatial awareness. His bedroom welcomed him with familiar magical configurations, crystal formations maintaining energy stabilization, specialized barrier talismans ensuring uninterrupted recovery, modified meditation platform facilitating controlled manifestation practice during abbreviated rest periods. Rather than conventional sleep, Issei settled into advanced meditation posture developed through combined knowledge from multiple traditions. The position allowed simultaneous physical recovery, energy replenishment, and continued consciousness activity through specialized partition techniques. While his body regenerated, his mind continued processing complex information gathered during research session. Within his internal landscape, increasingly sophisticated visualization techniques created detailed representation of his dual energy sources and their evolving relationship. Crimson Dragon power had expanded significantly through dedicated training, though full manifestation remained limited by Didrag's selective engagement. Blue-White Cursed energy operated with mathematical precision, limitless techniques developing rapidly through accelerated understanding of underlying principles. The boundary between these distinct power sources had evolved FR. Own rigid separation to permeable interface, controlled interaction allowing preliminary energy exchange without compromising essential characteristics of either system. This developing integration represented significant progress beyond initial emergency equilibrium established during awakening. Your adaptation rate exceeds any previous vessel, Didrag observed, consciousness fully engaged during meditation despite limited combat manifestation. Most hosts require years to achieve preliminary control levels you've established in weeks. Having an instruction manual helps. Gojo's presence c. Augmented with characteristic casual confidence. Previous experience creates shortcuts conventional development can't access. Both observations contained partial truth. His accelerated development street emmed from unique combination of factors rather than single cause. Reincarnated knowledge provided technical foundation impossible for conventional practitioners, while dragon energy supplied power scaling beyond normal human limitations. Combined with natural mathematical aptitude and dedicated practice across multiple specialized training programs, these advantages created unprecedented development potential. I've been considering the prophecy fragments. Issei directed the internal conversation toward productive analysis. If multiple independent sources predicted this specific convergence, something fundamental must necessitate the combination beyond coincidental compatibility. Dimensional stress patterns suggest adaptation requirement. Drake responded thoughtfully. Conventional L-power systems may prove insufficient for approaching boundary instability. Which explains the timing. Gojo added, perception sharpening with intellectual engagement. If metaphysical architecture E is approaching critical structural weakness, new stabilization methods would necessarily emerge through adaptive manifestation. The theoretical model aligned disturbingly well with fragmentary EV. Dense assembled throughout his research. His unique condition representing metaphysical adaptation response to approaching dimensional crisis rather than random supernatural occurrence. The implication S extended beyond personal development into fundamental questions regarding reality's underlying structure and potential approaching instabilities. Meditation continued through specialized consciousness cycles. Physical body recovering while mind processed complex theoretical models across multiple dimensional perspectives. By the time conventional alarm systems announced morning arrival, Issei had completed equivalent recovery to standard 8-hour sleep cycle despite fraction of actual elapsed time. Rising with mathematical precision, he completed morning preparations with unconscious FICIENCY, movements incorporating martial accuracy and spatial awareness into ordinary activities. His parents noted continued evolution in his behavioral patterns, though their limited perception frame work prevented comprehension of underlying supernatural causes. Another early training session, his mother inquired, serving breakfast with practiced movements that his enhanced perception automatically analyzed for mathematical efficiency. Research project deadline approaching, Issei explained, maintaining plausible explanation for his increasingly atypical schedule. The results are proven, more significant than initially projected. His father lowered his newspaper, parental intuition detecting deeper significance beneath surface explanation. This new focus suits you, but remember balance matters too. All work makes for dull development. The advice contains surprising wisdom despite originating from limited human perspective. Issei recognized genuine value in the reminder. His accelerating supernatural development sometimes overshadowed ordinary human experiences despite their continued importance to comprehensive identity formation. I'll remember, he promised sincerely. Actually planning some normal social activity this weekend. The statement wasn't merely reassurance but actual intention. Rias had organized casual gathering beyond formal training specifically to maintain balanced development across all aspects of his evolving identity. Despite intensive supernatural focus, preserving ordinary human connections and experiences remained essential to healthy integration. Departing with appropriate familial farewells, Issei proceeded toward academy grounds through morning streets gradually filling with ordinary students. The contrast between his expanding supernatural awareness and mundane surroundings created increasingly surreal juxtaposition. Mathematical patterns underlying physical reality visible alongside conventional appearances, energy signature radiating from seemingly ordinary individuals revealing hidden potential invisible to standard perception. Academy grounds displayed similar duality, ordinary educational facility overlaid with sophisticated supernatural infrastructure invisible to conventional students. Protective barriers, monitoring arrays, dimensional anchoring points, specialized research facilities, all hidden beneath NGLY normal school buildings through advanced perception manipulation techniques. Approaching the old school building housing Occult Research Club headquarters, Issei detected unusual energy concenter. Asian indicating full attendance despite early hour. Protective wards recognized his signature automatically, barrier systems reconfiguring to permit unimpeded access without disrupting security protocols. Inside, the Victorian-style clubroom had been temporarily reconfigured for formal meeting rather than standard training arrangement, ornate table positioned centrally, documents and magical disc. Lays arranged for comprehensive presentation. Rias occupied traditional position at head, Akino standing supportively nearby while remaining club members settled according to established protocol. Perfect timing, Rias greeted him warmly. We've received important information requiring immediate attention. Issei joined them with appropriate acknowledgement, settling into position recently designated for his increasing role within group hierarchy. The formal arrangement reflected his evolving status, no longer merely recruit but developing into essential strategic asset with specialized capabilities beyond conventional classification. 3 additional fallen angels entered territory boundaries last night. Rias began without preamble, magical display materializing above central table. Quote, unlike previous reconnaissance incursion, their energy signatures suggest combat specialization and deliberate coordination. The display showed detailed territory map with movement patterns highlighted through magical tracking systems, 3 distinct signatures following precise formation through commercial district before establishing temporary base in abandoned church facility outside residential areas. Rainer, Kalawarner, and Donasek, Akino identified, voice maintaining professional detachment despite subtle tension suggesting personal significance. Mid-rank combat specialists opera. Ting under Grigori Splinter faction rather than official leadership authorization. Specific interest or general incursion? Issei inquired, analytical mind automatically assessing tactical implications. Specific. Rias confirmed grimly. Surveillance indicates targeted information gathering regarding recent energy signature manifestations within territory. Given timing and focus, they're almost saints certainly investigating your awakening. The assessment aligned with logical progression following initial encounter 3 weeks prior. Information regarding his unusual manifestation would naturally attract increasing attention from supernatural factions beyond territorial administrators. The fallen angel who attacked him initially had clearly reported findings to superiors despite retreating from confrontation. Their specific interest suggests informed motivation rather than random investigation, Kiba observed from his position, swordsman's tactical assessment contributing valuable perspective. Someone provided targeting parameters before deployment. Meaning information about my condition has spread beyond immediate witnesses, Issei concluded, seeing logical implications. The question becomes whether they're operating independently or coordinating with other factions. Rias nodded approvingly at his analysis. Precisely our concern. Isolated interest from fallen angel SP. Linter Group presents manageable security challenge. Coordinated multi-faction investigation suggests broader implications requiring adjusted response protocols. What's our current assessment? Issei questioned, mind automatically calculating potential scenarios and appropriate countermeasures. Preliminary evidence suggests independent operation rather than coordinated effort, Rias replied. Magical display shifting to show detailed intelligence assessment. Their movement patterns indicate information limitation consistent with secondary reporting rather than comprehensive intelligence. They know something unusual manifested within Devil territory, Akino elaborated, professional briefing masking personal tension regarding fallen angel matters. But lack specific details regarding nature, capabilities, or precise identity. Their surveillance focuses on identifying energy signature rather than targeting specific individual. The assessment provided important tactical context. Air current activities represented intelligence gathering rather than immediate threat, though potential for escalation remained depending on findings and objectives. Appropriate response required balanced approach addressing security requirements without unnecessarily accelerating conflict timeline. What's the territorial protocol for unauthorized faction incursion? Issei inquired, seeking established framework for measured response. Observation with proportional intervention if boundaries are violated, Rias explained. As territorial administrators, we maintain right to enforce boundary compliance and protect inhabitants under our jurisdiction, but cannot initiate offensive action against visitors remaining within established behavioral parameters. Even when those visitors are clearly gathering intelligence regarding specific territory residents. Issei pressed, identifying potential limitation in conventional protocol. Rias smiled appreciatively at his perceptiveness. An important distinction. Generalized information gathering falls within acceptable parameters. Targeted investigation of specific individuals under official protection constitutes boundary violation justifying proportional response. The clarification established clear operational framework. Current surveillance warranted continued monitoring rather than immediate intervention, while maintaining readiness for justified response should investigation cross established boundaries. Balanced approach preserving diplomatic considerations while ensuring appropriate security protections. Their strategic IC discussion continued through comprehensive assessment of potential scenarios and proportional responses, each club member contributing specialized perspective from their particular expertise. Kiba's tactical combat experience, Kaniko's specialized sensory capabilities, Akino's technical knowledge regarding fallen angel methodologies, all combined with Rias's strategic overview creating sophisticated response framework beyond conventional territorial management. Eventually, practical considerations shifted conversation toward immediate scheduling adjustments addressing security requirements while maintaining normal operations. Your training continues as scheduled with appropriate modifications, Rias concluded, addressing Issei directly. Combat applications receive priority given potential security requirements. Though theoretical development remains essential to comprehensive capability evolution. Specific recommendations, Issei inquired, respecting her strategic assessment while seeking practical implementation guidance. Accelerated manifestation practice focusing on combat viable applications rather than theoretical exploration, Rias specified. Your defensive capabilities have developed impressively. But offensive implementation requires focused attention given potential security situations. The recommendation aligned with logical progression in his training schedule. Though accelerating combat applications created potential challenges regarding energy management, full offensive implementation of either power system individually presented minimal difficulty. Integrated application combining both simultaneously remained technically challenging despite theoretical understanding. I'll adjust meditation cycles to emphasize combat integration, Issei acknowledged. Mind automatically reconfiguring internal training schedules. Akino-san's harmonization techniques provide foundation for accelerated manifestation practice. Rias nodded approvingly. Perfect. Akino will continue specialized integration training while Kiba assists with practical combat applications. I'll coordinate with Sona regarding territorial monitoring to ensure comprehensive coverage during scheduled activities. With strategic framework established and immediate scheduling adjusted to address evolving security requirements, their formal meeting transitioned toward normal school day preparation. Despite supernatural concerns, maintaining ordinary student appearances remained important to overall territorial security, drawing unnecessary attention through obvious behavior. Changes would only complicate already complex situation. As club members departed for regular classes, Akino lingered briefly, violet eyes meeting Issei's with unspoken communication beneath professional exterior. The shrine tonight, she suggested quietly. The harmonization chamber offers optimal conditions for accelerated integration practice. Absolutely, Issei confirmed, appreciating both practical recommendation and implicit personal connection. Their specialized training sessions had evolved beyond technical instruction into meaningful collaboration, shared experiences creating relationship distinct from his general arrangement with Rias's group. With acknowledged plans for evening training, they separated toward respective academic responsibilities, supernatural concerns temporarily subordinated to mundane educational requirements despite their decreasing relevance to his accelerating evolution. The duality created increasingly surreal juxtaposition, ordinary student activities continuing alongside extraordinary metaphysical development. Morning classes passed with practiced external participation masking internal processing of complex supernatural considerations. Mathematical principles underlying dimensional barrier systems, tactical assessment of fallen angel combat methodologies, integration techniques for enhanced energy convergence, his mind analyzed idealized concepts while maintaining appropriate responses to mundane educational material. By lunch period, Issei had formulated preliminary approach for accelerated combat integration focused on practical applications rather than theoretical exploration. The methodology synthesized elements from multiple training programs, Akino's harmonization techniques, Kiba's tactical combat experience, Sona's mathematical modeling principles, creating comprehensive development framework optimized for immediate security requirements. Rather than joining regular lunch gatherings, Issei proceeded toward SECL. Udid courtyard area reserved for student council activities, practical privacy allowing uninterrupted refinement of his integrated development approach. The location offered additional advantage Thrug H specialized barrier systems incorporated into architectural elements, creating secure environment for preliminary manifestation practice without requiring formal training facilities. Tsubaki found him there, clipboard positioned at characteristic angle as she approached with mathematical precision. Her blue-rimmed glasses caught midday sunlight while assessing his focused expression with clinical accuracy. President Citri authorized immediate archive access following your classes, she announced without preamble, respecting his preference for direct communication without unnecessary social preliminaries. Priority research materials have been relocated to secure consultation room adjacent to primary repository. The arrangement represented significant accommodation beyond standard PR. Otokal, Sona clearly prioritizing his research requirements despite administrative complications created through specialized access authorization. The adjustment indicated both practical support for Hai's accelerated development and growing respect for his theoretical contributions to their collaborative investigations. Please convey my appreciation to President Citri, Issei responded sincerely. Quote, the prophecy fragments we identified last night suggest additional reference materials might exist within specialized historical collections. Already authorized, Tsubaki confirmed with precise efficiency. Relevant sections from restricted cultural repositories have been temporarily consolidated within your designated research area, including materials previously unavailable due to classification limitations. The extraordinary accommodation demonstrated Sona's genuine commitment to their theoretical collaboration beyond formal alliance considerations. Despite natural competition with Rias for territorial influence, her intellectual engagement with mathematical implications of his unique condition transcended conventional political calculations, true scholar prioritizing knowledge advancement above factional advantage. You've been developing integration methodology, Tsubaki observed perceptively, noting calculations visible in his open notebook. Combat applications specifically, based on dimensional intersection formulas. Her analytical accuracy impressed even after weeks of collaboration. Tsubaki's mathematical comprehension frequently identifying underlying principles from minimal visible evidence. The capacity made her invaluable research partner despite formal alignment with different Devil household. Accelerated development focusing on practical implementation rather than theoretical exploration. Issei confirmed, sharing his approach openly given their established collaborative relationship. Security considerations necessitate combat viable applications sooner than initially projected. Tsubaki settled opposite him with characteristic precision, clipboard positioned exactly parallel to table edge. The fallen angel incursion represents relatively minor security challenge given your current capability level. Their combat specialists lack necessary power scaling to present significant threat against combined territorial defenses. The concern isn't their combat potential but their reporting function, Issei clarified, appreciating her tactical assessment while addressing broader strategic implications. Information distribution regarding my condition potentially attracts attention from more significant factions depending on specific details communicated through intelligence channels. Tsubaki nodded with clinical approval. Logical prioritization. Tactical response addresses immediate security parameters while strategic consideration focuses on information management implications. She adjusted her glasses precisely. Have you considered selective demonstration parameters? Quote, the question revealed sophisticated strategic thinking beneath her typically reserved analytical demeanor, not merely addressing immediate security response BU. She considering deliberate information management through controlled display of specific capabilities. Rather than simple reactive position, she suggested proactive approach shaping external perception through calculated demonstration. Controlled information release through specifically designed confrontation parameters, Issei interpreted, immediately grasping her strategic concept. Allowing OBS-erved capabilities to shape faction response patterns rather than relying on their independent assessment. Precisely. Tsubaki's expression suggested satisfaction at his quick comprehension. Prezi. Dent Citri believes carefully calibrated demonstration would establish advantageous perception framework within supernatural intelligence communities, potentially deterring inappropriate intervention. Attempts while simultaneously attracting beneficial attention from specific factions. The approach demonstrated remarkable strategic sophistication, turning potential security challenge into control. Information distribution opportunity through carefully managed confrontation. Rather than merely defending against unwanted attention, deliberately shaping external perception through calculated capability demonstration while maintaining appropriate capability reservation for future requirements. I'll incorporate the concept into integration development, Issei acknowledged, appreciating both the strategic insight and implicit cooperation between devil households despite formal separation. Specific parameter recommendations. President Citri suggests capability demonstration sufficient to establish intervention deterrence without revealing complete developmental potential, Tsubaki specified with characteristic precision. Approximately 60% manifestation of observed capabilities with deliberate indication of additional unrevealed potential. The recommendation aligned with optimal strategic parameters, sufficient demonstration to establish respect without revealing complete capability assessment. Deliberately preserving uncertainty regarding full potential to deter casual intervention attempts. Sophisticated approach balancing immediate security requirements again. Saint long-term strategic positioning within supernatural political landscape. Their conversation continued through increasingly detailed strategic analysis, potential faction responses to specific capability demonstrations. Optimal information distribution parameters, calculated uncertainty preservation techniques. Despite originating from different devil households, their collaborative approach transcended conventional political boundaries through shared intellectual framework prioritizing optimal outcomes above factional advantage. Eventually, scheduling considerations concluded their impromptu strategy session, both returning to respective academic responsibilities while processing broader implications of their developing approach. The bell signaling afternoon classes found Issei proceeding toward conventional educational activities with renewed appreciation for complex supernatural politics underlying seemingly ordinary environment. Afternoon lessons passed with increasing detachment from mundane concerns. Issei's awareness primarily focused on refining integrated combat methodology while maintaining minimal required participation in academic activities. By final bell, he had developed comprehensive approach synthesizing strategic considerations with practical implementation requirements, balanced methodology addressing immediate security parameters while establishing advantageous perception framework for long-term positioning. Exiting classroom building, Issei found Kiba awaiting with characteristic casual grace masking combat readiness beneath friendly exterior. The wordsman acknowledged him with respectful nod suggesting awareness of his accelerating development beyond initial recruit status. Bushu adjusted today's training sequence, Kiba explained as they proceeded toward old school building. Combat applications first, followed by specialized integration practice with Akano-san afterward. Strategy meeting scheduled before your archive research with President Citri this evening. The compressed schedule demonstrated Rias's practical adaptation to evolving security requirements, prioritizing immediate combat readiness while maintaining essential theoretical development through optimized scheduling efficiency. Despite natural territorial competition with Sona, she clearly recognized value in continued collaborative research beyond conventional political calculations. Perfect, Issei acknowledged, appreciating both the practical adjustments and implicit respect for his multiple training requirements. I've been developing integration methodology specifically focused on combat applications. Excellent timing, Kiba replied with genuine enthusiasm rather than mere courtesy. Today's sequence focuses on practical implementation in controlled opposition scenarios, testing theoretical techniques against adaptive resistance patterns. They reached the old school building, protective wards recognizing their signatures without requiring conscious activation. Inside, the clubroom had been reconfigured for intensive combat training, furniture removed, specialized barrier systems established around central practice area, monitoring equipment. NT positioned strategically throughout the space. Rias awaited them with characteristic warm authority, crimson hair contrasting dramatically against modified training attire designed for supernatural combat applications. Nearby, Kaneko adjusted protective equipment with mechanical precision, expression revealing nothing despite focused preparation. Perfect timing, Rias greeted them enthusiastically. We're implementing accelerated combat sequence focusing on integrated manifestation techniques. Kaneko provides physical opposition while Kiba contributes weapons-based challenges, creating comprehensive testing environment for your developing capabilities. The structured approach demonstrated sophisticated training methodology beyond conventional supernatural instruction, personalized development framework addressing specific integration requirements through carefully calibrated opposition scenarios. Rather than standardized exercises, Rias had designed specialized training sequence optimized for his unique condition. Training proceeded through increasingly complex combat scenarios, initial exercises establishing baseline parameters, followed by progressively challenging opposite ion requiring adaptive response across multiple technique categories. Throughout the sequence, Issei implemented developing integration methodology combining cursed techniques with gradually increasing G-Dragon energy application, balanced approach emphasizing practical combat viability while establishing foundation for future capability expansion. Your spatial manipulation creates fascinating tactical advantages, Kiba observed during brief recovery interval between intensive sequences. The swordsman massaged his shoulder where Issei's redirected attack had connected despite seemingly impossible angle. Conventional combat experience provides limited defense against dimensional vector alteration. Different magical traditions operate from fundamentally different principles, Issei explained, consciously regulating energy distribution between his dual power sources. Traditional supernatural combat relies on power versus power equations, essentially matching opposing force directly. He limitless technique circumvents conventional approach entirely through spatial manipulation rather than power confrontation, which creates absolute defense regardless of incoming power scaling. Rias added thoughtfully from monitoring position. Fascinating tactical implications against conventionally overwhelming opponents. Even supernatural entities with significant power advantage would face fundamental mathematical problem rather than mere force differential. Her observation highlighted critical advantage underlying his developing combat methodology, defense mechanism operating through dimensional mathematics rather than proportional energy deployment, creating potential viability against opponents traditionally considered beyond reasonable opposition parameters. Absolute rather than relative protection framework. Though implementation requirements remained technically challenging despite theoretical understanding, training continued through increasingly sophisticated applications. Combat scenarios evolving from simple opposition patterns toward complex tactical situations requiring adaptive response across multiple technique categories simultaneously. Throughout intensive practice, Issei progressively implemented greater integration between his dual power sources, cursed techniques providing framework while dragon energy supplied increasing power scaling beyond conventional limitations. By session's conclusion, he had demonstrated significant progress implementing theoretical understanding into practical combat techniques, not complete mastery, but accelerating development beyond initial projections. The balanced approach established foundation for immediate security requirements while preserving developmental potential for future capability expansion. Impressive progress, Rias acknowledged as they concluded formal exercises. Your integration methodology shows remarkable practical viability despite theoretical complexity. Continued development along current parameters should establish sufficient combat readiness for potential security requirements while maintaining optimal growth trajectory. The assessment reflected genuine appreciation beyond mere encouragement. Rias clearly recognized both his accelerating development and broader implications regarding territorial security considerations. Despite her youth by devil standards, her strategic assessment demonstrated sophisticated understanding of complex supernatural dynamics beyond conventional territorial administration. Following brief recovery interval allowing physiological stabilization after intensive manifestation practice, Issei proceeded toward scheduled integration training with Akeno. Rather than accompanying him directly, Rias remained behind with Kiba and Kaneko to analyze recorded combat data, establishing comprehensive assessment framework for future development optimization. Akeno awaited near academy boundaries, traditional paper umbrella opened against evening. sunlight rather than weather conditions. Her shrine maiden heritage manifested through subtle elements incorporated into otherwise ordinary appearance, precise movements reflecting generations of spiritual training. Awareness patterns revealing specialized perception beyond conventional supernatural sensitivity. Ready for accelerated integration practice? She inquired with serene smile masking focused determination beneath composed exterior. Unlike her typical school persona combining playful elegance with deliberate mystery, training sessions revealed professional dedication and technical expertise beyond casual observation. Absolutely, Issei confirmed with genuine enthusiasm matching her positive energy. Despite intensive combat training, anticipation for specialized integration practice with Akeno provided renewed motivation rather than fatigue response, their collaborative sessions consistently producing significant developmental progress through complementary methodologies. They proceeded through dimensional transitions toward shrine grounds, sacred boundaries recognizing their signatures without requiring formal access protocols. Unlike their initial visit requiring Akeno's direct guidance, Issei now navigated spiritual dimensions independently through developed understanding of underlying mathematical principles, sacred space welcoming him directly as recognized practitioner rather than merely accompanied visitor. The harmonization chamber awaited with familiar configuration, tatami mats surrounding central fire pit containing blue-white flames that burned without fuel or smoke. Architectural elements designed specifically for practitioners balancing multiple power sources. Within this specialized environment, energy manipulation occurred without conventional limitations. Spiritual dimensions facilitating capabilities difficult to manifest in ordinary physical space. Today we focus on combat-viable integration techniques, Akeno explained as they settle into meditative positions flanking sacred fire. Accelerated implementation rather than theoretical foundation development, emphasizing practical application parameters within security operation constraints. Her approach perfectly complemented earlier combat training with Rias's group, specialized integration methodology addressing specific technical requirements underlying practical manifestation. Rather than separate training sequences, their combined programs created comprehensive development framework addressing all aspects of his unique condition through coordinated specialization. NTEG ration practice proceeded through increasingly sophisticated exercises, initial sequences establishing enhanced connection parameters between dual power sources, followed by progressively complex manifestation techniques combining cursed energy precision with draconic power scaling. Throughout intensive practice, Akeno provided invaluable guidance drawn from personal experience managing multiple supernatural energy systems, practical wisdom beyond theoretical understanding. Your natural integration aptitude continues exceeding conventional parameters, Akeno observed during particularly successful manifestation sequence. The sacred fire reflected specialized energy patterns Issei generated through controlled convergence between his dual power sources, geometric precision overlaid with draconic intensity creating unique visual representation of his developing capabilities. The limitation remains consistent across implementation attempts, Issei noted thoughtfully, analyzing end pattern within otherwise successful integration. Dragon energy responds differently depending on specific application parameters. Combat protection motivation generates significantly stronger response than theoretical practice regardless of technical execution quality. Akeno nodded with understanding beyond mere acknowledgement. Sacred gears containing conscious entities like Heavenly Dragon's respond primarily to emotional motivation rather than technical precision. Drag likely evaluates specific purpose underlying power application rather than merely technical implementation quality. The assessment aligned with patterns Issei had observed throughout his accelerating development, dragon energy consistently responding more vigorously to protective applications than abstract practice. Despite identical technical execution, motivation affecting manifestation directly, emotional framework creating fundamental difference in capability access beyond conscious control. Which creates implementation challenge within controlled demonstration parameters, Issei observed, connecting integration limitation to broader strategic considerations from earlier discussion with Tsubaki. Calibrated capability display requires precise manifestation control difficult to maintain when emotional catalysts significantly affect output parameters. Perhaps alternative framework might prove effective, Akeno suggested thoughtfully. Rather than attempting precise percentage limitation during actual confrontation, consider preparation restriction instead, deliberate energy reservation before engagement rather than control during manifestation. The recommendation demonstrated sophisticated understanding of sacred gear mechanics beyond conventional technical knowledge, practical wisdom regarding conscious artifacts requiring different management approach than inanimate power sources. Deliberate limitation established before emotional engagement rather than attempting control during active manifestation. When draconic response to protective motivation would naturally override technical restriction attempts. Brilliant, Issei acknowledged sincerely. Predefined channel capacity raw, higher than output regulation, allowing natural emotional response within established structural limitations. Their practice continued through increasingly refined implementation of this conceptual approach, establishing controlled integration framework with deliberate capacity limitations before engaging emotional catalysts activating draconic response patterns. The methodology created reliable IFE station control without requiring conscious regulation during active implementation, natural expression within predetermined parameters rather than actively restricted output. Hours passed within the chamber's altered temporal field, intensive practice producing significant developmental progress without corresponding physical fatigue. The sacred environment provided continuous energy renewal while facilitating deeper access to developing capabilities, optimizing training efficiency beyond conventional supernatural practice methodology. Eventually, Akeno signaled conclusion to their formal integration practice. Sacred fire stabilizing to steady blue glow as they transitioned from structured exercises to reflective conversation, important aspect of their established training pattern Allo. Wing intellectual processing of experiential development. Your progression continues exceeding conventional developmental models, Akeno observed with genuine respect beyond professional assessment. The integration methodology you've established creates implementation framework potentially applicable beyond your specific condition, theoretical significance extending into broader supernatural adaptation techniques. The observation highlighted important aspect of their collaborative relationship, mutual benefit beyond simple instruction dynamic. Despite her greater experience with multiple energy systems, their work together produced insights valuable to Akeno's own development rather than merely supporting his evolution, creating genuine partnership rather than hierarchical teaching relationship. Your experience provides essential practical foundation beyond theoretical understanding, Issei acknowledged sincerely. The harmonization techniques you've shared create possibilities I couldn't have developed independently regardless of mathematical comprehension. Something shifted subtly in Akeno's expression, professional instructor briefly yielding to more personal connection beneath composed exterior. Perhaps that's the actual lesson from your unique condition, integration creating possibilities beyond isolated development, complementary strengths producing outcomes empathy. BLE through independent effort regardless of individual capability. The philosophical observation resonated beyond specific technical application. Fundamental principle applicable across multiple stance domains rather than merely supernatural development methodology. Integration versus isolation, cooperation versus independence, relationship versus individuality, broader implications extending beyond immediate practical considerations into fundamental questions regarding optimal developmental approach across all aspects of existence. Their conversation continued through increasingly personal territory, shared perspectives regarding integration philosophy beyond specific technical applications, mutual experiences navigating multiple identity aspects, complementary approaches to balanced development across supernatural and human domains. Unlike their initial interactions characterized by formal instruction relationship, these discussions revealed genuine connection developing beyond professional association, mutual respect and understanding transcending conventional categorical boundaries. Eventually, practical scheduling considerations concluded their extended training session, dimensional transitions returning them to ordinary reality near academy boundaries. Evening had deepened considerably, stars visible above urban illumination as they proceeded toward scheduled strategy meeting with Rias's complete group. Tomorrow we'll implement more advanced integration sequences, Akeno noted as they approached the old school building. Your current development trajectory STS capability for significantly enhanced convergence techniques beyond conventional limitations. Looking forward to it, Issei replied with genuine enthusiasm despite intensive schedule. Their collaborative sessions consistently produced not merely technical progress but meaningful connection beyond practical development, relationship evolving beyond initial instructional dynamic into something increasingly significant despite undefined categorical boundaries. Protective wards recognized their signatures automatically as they entered the old school building. Magical security systems confer Ming authorized access without requiring conscious activation. Inside, the clubroom had been reconfigured for strategic planning, formal meeting arrangement rather than training environment. Specialize D displays providing comprehensive territory monitoring across multiple supernatural detection systems. Rias awaited with remaining club members already positioned according to established protocol. Formal arrangement reflecting serious strategic discussion rather than casual social gathering. Her expression combined warm welcome with focused determination, balanced leadership approach to characteris. Tick of her developing administrative style. Perfect timing, she greeted them. We've received updated intelligence regarding fallen angel activities requiring immediate strategic assessment. I settled into position recently designated for his evolving role within group hierarchy, noting specialized materials prepared specifically for his review, respect for his accelerating strategic contributions beyond mere combat potential. The arrangement demonstrated Rias's sophisticated leadership approach, recognizing and utilizing diverse capability aspects across all group members rather than narrow functional classification. Their surveillance pattern has shifted from general territory assessment toward specific location focus. Rias began without preamble, magical display materializing above central table. Primary attention now centers on academy grounds and surrounding areas, suggesting information narrowing toward educational facility rather than broader territorial parameters. The display showed detailed movement tracking across previous 24 hours, 3 distinct fallen angel signatures establishing surveillance positions strategically positioned around academy perimeter. Observation patterns focusing specifically on student population rather than territorial features. The behavior suggested intelligence development narrowing potential target identification fro. General energy signature detection toward specific individual tracking. They're looking for someone specifically now, not just investigating unusual energy readings, Kiba observed, tactical asses. Sment reflecting his combat experience beyond apparent age. The pattern suggests information development from external source rather than direct detection capability. Someone told them to focus on the school. Kaneko added with characteristic verbal economy, rare contribution emphasizing observation's significance despite her typically reserved participation. Precisely our assessment, Rias confirmed. Expression serious beneath composed leadership demeanor. This development suggests intelligence distribution beyond initial reporting channel, information regarding unusual energy manifesta. Qian spreading through supernatural networks rather than remaining isolated within specific fallen angel faction. The implication created significant strategic concern beyond immediate security parameters, broadening awareness regarding Issei's unique condition potentially attracting attention from multiple supernatural factions depending on specific details distributed through intelligence channels. Information management complexity increasing exponentially with each additional faction becoming aware of unusual manifestation within devil territory. Their surveillance methodology indicates limited specific information despite narrowing geographical focus, Akano noted, professional analysis masking personal tension regarding fallen angel matters. Observation patterns suggest target-eyed identification uncertainty despite location confirmation. They know approximate location but not exact identity parameters, which provides tactical advantage regarding controlled information distribution, Issei observed, connecting current situation to strategic approach discussed previously with Tsubaki. Their incomplete intelligence creates opportunity for deliberately shaped perception through calculated demonstration rather than random discovery. Rias's expression shifted with interested surprise at his strategic assessment, appreciation for sophisticated perspective beyond conventional response framework. You're suggesting proactive approach rather than standard security protocol. Interesting tactical consideration. Controlled confrontation under specific parameters, Issei elaborated. Sharing strategic concept developed through earlier discussion with Sona's group. Deliberate demonstration establishing calculated external perception rather than allowing random capability assessment through unstructured observation. The recommendation represented sophisticated strategic thinking beyond reactive security response, proactive information management shaping external perception through deliberate demonstration rather than passive protection, potentially allowing disadvantageous intelligence development. Turning potential security challenge into controlled opportunity through calculated approach rather than merely defensive positioning. Fascinating strategy, Rias acknowledged with genuine respect. Rather than simply preventing intelligence gathering, actively shaping distributed information through controlled demonstration. President Citri's influence evident in the approach, though your specific implementation framework shows personal strategic development beyond mere adoption. Her observation demonstrated both perceptive assessment and genuine appreciation rather than territorial competition, recognizing collaborative value across devil households despite formal separation. Prioritizing optimal outcome above political considerations. The reaction further confirmed Rias's sophisticated leadership approach beyond her apparent age, genuine strategic wisdom transcending conventional supernatural politics. The approach requires careful parameter definition, Issei continued, outlining specific implementation requirements. Capability demonstration, sufficient to establish intervention deterrence without revealing complete developmental potential, deliberately preserving uncertainty regarding full capabilities to discourage casual interference attempts. Their strategic discussion continued through increasingly detailed planning, specific demonstration parameters, optimal confrontation timing, calculated uncertainty preservation techniques, C preparations addressing multiple potential response scenarios. Throughout comprehensive planning, each club member contributed specialized perspective from their particular expertise. Kiba's tactical combat assessment, Kaniko's sensory capability recommendations, Akino's technical knowledge regarding fallen angel psychology, creating sophisticated strategic framework beyond conventional supernatural response protocols. Eventually, practical timing considerations concluded formal strategy session, implementation schedule established for following day based on predictive modeling of fallen angel surveillance patterns. With comprehensive plan established addressing both immediate security requirements and broader strategic positioning objectives, attention turned toward immediate Practical concerns regarding optimal preparation activities. Your scheduled archive research with President Citri remains essential despite tactical considerations, Rias noted, addressing Issei directly with characteristic balanced perspective. Theoretical understanding provides necessary foundation for practical implementation, particularly regarding your unique conditions' broader implications. The observation demonstrated sophisticated development priority assessment beyond immediate security concerns, recognizing essential relationship between theoretical comprehension and practical capability despite apparent separation. Rather than artificial opposition between research and application, Rias clearly understood their fundamental interconnection within comprehensive development framework. With acknowledged schedule maintaining balance between practical preparation and theoretical development, club members separated toward respective evening responsibilities while processing broader implications of their strategic approach. Issei proceeded toward administrative building housing restricted archive access point, mind analyzing complex strategic considerations while body maintained casual student appearance despite increasingly sophisticated supernatural awareness. Specialized access protocols recognized his unique signature automatically, security systems confirming authorization without requiring conscious activation. Inside, the restricted archive section had been reconfigured according to Tsubaki's earlier description, secure consultation room adjacent to primary repository containing consolidated research materials from multiple specialized collections normally requiring separate access procedures. Sona awaited within prepared research environment, violet eyes. Assessing his arrival with characteristic precision while adjusting glasses with single-finger motion combining pragmatic necessity with unconscious habit. Nearby, specialized workstation displayed complex calculations expanding upon their previous collaborative research, mathematical modeling continuing despite his absence through Sona's independent analytical contributions. Productive training sessions. She inquired without preamble, respecting his preference for direct communication without unnecessary social preliminaries. Extremely, Issei confirmed, settling into position opposite with unconscious precision matching her mathematical movements. Integration methodology showing significant practical viability despite theoretical complexity. Combat applications developing with E.N. optimal parameters for security requirements. Sona nodded with clinical satisfaction. Excellent progression. Tsubaki mentioned your strategic approach regarding controlled information distributio. N through calculated demonstration parameters. Sophisticated conceptualization showing significant development beyond conventional response frameworks. The acknowledgement contained genuine appreciation rather than mere courtesy. Sona clearly recognized both practical utility and theoretical elegance within strategic approach developed through their collaborative discussion. Despite natural reserve, characterizing her typical interactions, her intellectual engagement created authentic connection transcending formal political considerations. Your recommendation regarding selective demonstratio. N parameters provided essential foundation for comprehensive approach, Issei acknowledged sincerely, respecting intellectual contribution beyond personal implementation. The application framework Psi, N the sizes elements from multiple strategic perspectives into coherent methodology addressing both immediate security requirements and broader positioning objectives. Their conversation continued increasingly detailed strategic assessment before transitioning toward primary research focus, theoretical investigation regarding prophecy fragments identified during previous session. With Sona's authorization, previously inaccessible historical materials had been consolidated within their research environment, creating unprecedented access to fragmented references regarding phenomena matching Issei's unique condition. The convergence patterns become increasingly significant when viewed across cultural boundaries, Sona observed, analyzing materials from different supernatural traditions arranged in chronological sequence. Independent documentation from unrelated magical systems describing identical phenomena suggests objective reality rather than cultural interpretation. Issei nodded agreement while examining particularly ancient manuscript containing pre-convergence symbology representing dimensional mathematics beyond conventional supernatural understanding. The consist NT reference to Cursed Dragon manifestation preceding significant dimensional boundary event appears across multiple predictive traditions despite completely separate development histories. Their collaborative research continued through increasingly sophisticated theoretical territory, boundary mathematics, dimensional intersection properties, metaphysical adaptation theory, predictive model assessment. Unlike practical training focusing on immediate capability development, their theoretical investigation addressed fundamental questions regarding reality's underlying structure and approach. Instabilities potentially necessitating his unique conditions manifestation. Hours passed in productive research collaboration, extensive materials revealing increasingly disturbing pattern acros. Fragmented references, consistent prediction regarding dimensional boundaries stress requiring unprecedented adaptation response beyond conventional supernatural systems. Multiple independent sources Augusted approaching critical transition point in metaphysical architecture underlying reality itself, necessitating evolutionary development beyond established supernatural categories. The mathematic consistency across predictive models suggests deliberate design rather than coincidental development, Sona observed, analyzing complex calculations derived from seemingly unrelated prophecy fragments. As if your specific condition represents planned adaptive response rather than random supernatural manifestation. Intelligent design underlying apparent randomness, Issei agreed, recognizing pattern matching their earlier theoretical discussion. Deliberate metaphysical engineering rather than evolutionary development, suggesting conscious intervention within natural supernatural progression. The implication created profound theoretical significance beyond immediate practical considerations. Fundamental questions regarding reality's underlying organization and potential guiding intelligence behind apparently natural supernatural developments. If his unique condition represented deliberate adaptive response to approaching dimensional crisis, some higher-order consciousness must necessarily exist capable of implementing such sophisticated metaphysical engineering across multiple reality layers. Their theoretical discussion continued through increasingly profound philosophic territory until practical timing considerations eventually concluded formal research session, both requiring adequate recovery period before implementing scheduled strategic operation following day. With respectful acknowledgement of productive collaboration, they separated toward respective recovery environments while processing broader implications of their disturbing theoretical discoveries. Issei proceeded homeward through quiet evening streets, mind analyzing complex information while body maintained casual teenage appearance despite increasingly sophisticated supernatural awareness. He juxtaposition between ordinary physical environment and extraordinary metaphysical revelations created surreal cognitive dissonance, mundane reality continuing unchanged despite approaching dementia. Null crisis suggested through multiple independent predictive sources. Hone welcomed him with familiar protective wards glowing subtly to enhanced perception, security measures ensuring his family Rima. In safely oblivious to supernatural developments transforming their son's existence. Inside, ordinary domestic patterns continued uninterrupted, parents engaged in typical evening activities without comprehension regarding metaphysical transformations occurring within their household. Rather than disturbing their blissful ignorance with impossible explanations, Issei maintained comfortable norma. LCY through practiced social interaction, casual conversation regarding ordinary topics, appropriate responses to parental inquiries, measured enthusiasm toward conventional family activities. The performance wasn't merely deception but protective compassion, preserving their happiness through calculated information management rather than destructive revelatory honesty. Later, alone within his specially configured bedroom, Issei settled into advanced meditation posture developed through combined knowledge from multiple traditions. Crystal formations hanging from his window cast mathematical patterns across walls, stabilizing energies while facilitating controlled manifestation practice during abbreviated recovery period. Despite intensive activity throughout extended day, his enhanced physiology required significantly reduced restoration time compared to conventional human limitations, supernatural adaptation accelerating across all biological systems simultaneously with power development. Within his internal landscape, increasingly sophisticated visualization techniques created detailed representation of his dual energy sources and their evolving relationship. Crimson Dragon power had expanded significantly through dedicated training, D-Drake's engagement increasing proportionally with demonstrated worthy intention rather than mere technical proficiency. Blue-White Cursed energy operated with mathematical precision, limitless techniques developing rapidly through accelerated understanding of underlying principles. The boundary between these distinct power sources had evolved. D from permeable interface toward preliminary integration framework, controlled convergence allowing synchronized application without compromising essential characteristics of either system. This developing harmony represented significant progress beyond initial emergency equilibrium established during awakening, though complete integration remained distant developmental objective rather than immediate possibility. Tomorrow's confrontation represents significant manifestation opportunity, D-Drake observed, consciousness fully engaged during meditation despite selective combat activation. TECTIVE motivation provides optimal emotional catalyst for enhanced capability access. Just remember the strategic parameters, Gojo's presence reminded with characteristic casual confidence masking serious purpose. Calculated demonstration rather than complete capability revelation, showing enough to establish respect without revealing everything. Basic strategy across any confrontation regardless of specific opponents. Both perspectives contained valuable wisdom regarding balanced approach toward scheduled operation, D-Drake's understanding of emotional activation requirements complementing Gojo's strategic demonstration experience. Combined with Issei's own developing judgment, these diverse perspectives created comprehensive preparation framework addressing all relevant considerations from multiple valuable viewpoints. Controlled channel capacity before engagement rather than output regulation during manifestation. Issei summarized aloud, verbalizing implementation approach developed during training with Akeno. Predefined parameters allowing natural emotional response within established structural limitations. Integration practice continued through abbreviated recovery period. Issei establishing precise capability reservation framework for following day's scheduled demonstration. Rather than attempting conscious control during active manifestation when emotional catalysts would naturally override technical restriction attempts, he implemented structural limitations within energy channeling systems themselves, predetermined capacity constraints regardless of potential output availability. Eventually, practical recovery requirements concluded active practice session, meditation transitioning toward specialized rest cycle allowing simultaneous physical regeneration and continued consciousness processing. Within this optimized restoration framework, Issei's body recovered from intensive activity while mind continued organizing exponentially expanding Knoll. DGE base. Both systems operating at peak efficiency through supernatural adaptation beyond conventional human limitations. Morning arrived with mathematical precision, sunrise striking crystal formati. Ons at exactly calculated angles to project awakening patterns across bedroom walls. Issei rose feeling comprehensively refreshed despite abbreviated rest period, enhanced recovery capabilities functio. Ning perfectly within optimized restoration framework established through deliberate practice. Today's significance registered immediately within conscious awareness, scheduled strategic operation imp. Lamenting carefully designed confrontation parameters after weeks of accelerated development. Not merely security response but deliberate demonstration establishing calculated external perception within supernatural intelligence networks. Controlled information distribution shaping faction responses through precisely calibrated capability display. Morning preparations proceeded with unconscious martial precision. Movements incorporating spatial awareness into ordinary activities without conscious consideration. His parents noted continued evolution in his behavioral patterns with mixed curiosity and approval. Though their limited perception framework prevented comprehension of underlying supernatural causes. Important test today, his father inquired perceptively, newspaper lowered to O.B. serve his focused preparation with parental intuition detecting significance despite limited information. Something like that, Issei acknowledged with measured smile. Demonstrating progress from recent training sessions. The explanation contained literal truth despite deliberate ambiguity. Today's operation indeed representing practical demonstration of developing capabilities, though within considerably different context than conventional academic assessment. The communication approach maintained ethical balance between necessary secrecy and personal integrity, neither revealing Danguro as information nor engaging in complete deception. Departing with appropriate familial farewells, Issei proceeded toward predetermined meeting location through morning streets gradually filling with ordinary students. Unlike regular school days, today's schedule incorporated deliberate deviation from standard patterns, calculated anomaly designed to attract fallen angel attention toward specific occasion optimal for controlled confrontation parameters. Hiba awaited at designated intersection, casual stance masking combat readiness beneath friendly exterior. The swordsman acknowledged Issei Th respectful nod suggesting awareness of his accelerated development beyond initial recruit status. Genuine recognition of evolving capabilities rather than mere courtesy. Everything prepared according to schedule. Hiba reported without requiring prompting, respecting Issei's growing strategic role within group operations. Target surveillance established at primary observation points with predicted attention pattern focused on academy approach routes. Bushu and Akano-san have established containment perimeter with Kaneko maintaining sensory monitoring across designated engagement zone. The comprehensive preparation demonstrated sophisticated operational methodology beyond conventional supernatural security response, coordinated team implementation following detailed strategic framework rather than reactive improvisation. Despite their youth by supernatural standards, Rias's group clearly operated with professional efficiency exceeding typical devil household security forces. Perfect, Issei acknowledged. Mind automatically reviewing strategic parameters while body maintained casual student appearance. Proceeding with primary approach pattern as scheduled. Estimated confrontation timing remains optimal based on predicted surveillance rotation. Confirmed, Hiba replied with confident precision. Current target movement patterns align with projected schedule, positioning. All three fallen angels within optimal observation range during your calculated approach sequence. Interception probability exceeds 90% based on established behavioral analysis. Their conversation continued through final coordination details as they proceeded along predetermined route designed to maximize fallen angel observation opportunity while maintaining apparent casual student behavior. Despite sophisticated strategic planning underlying their movements, external appearance suggested nothing beyond ordinary students proceeding toward educational facility through typical morning routine. Approaching designated confrontation zone, secluded park area situated between residential district and academy grounds, Issei's enhanced perception detected predicted surveillance positions surrounding their location. 3 distinct fallen angel signatures maintained observation from calculated vantage points, attention clearly focused on their approach pattern despite attempted concealment. All targets in position, Issei noted quietly, voice calibrated for Kiba's enhanced hearing without alerting potential observers. Proceeding with primary engagement sequence. With practiced casualness masking deliberate strategic implementation, their movement pattern shifted toward predetermined confrontation location, open area providing optimal environmental parameters for control. LLED capability demonstration while minimizing potential civilian exposure should containment protocols prove necessary. Every aspect of the approach had been carefully calculated for maximum strategy. See advantage while preserving appearance of coincidental encounter rather than deliberate engagement. Right on schedule, Kiba acknowledged with professional satisfaction beneath casual exterior. R gets adjusting position in response to our approach pattern. Movement indicates direct interception intention rather than continued observation. The assessment aligned with predicted behavioral response. Fallen angels transitioning from surveillance mode toward direct engagement based on confirmed target identification. Their coordinated movement pattern suggested predetermined confrontation protocol rather than spontaneous decision. Confirming earlier hypothesis regarding deliberate mission parameters rather than random investigation. Issei and Kiba reached designated confrontation position. Open circular clearing surrounded by decorative trees providing natural privacy barrier between park area and adjacent pedestrian pathways. The location had been selected specifically for its environmental advantages, optimal spatial configuration for controlled manifestation demonstration while maintaining appropriate separation from potential civilian observation. They paused in calculated position. Conversation shifting toward deliberately audible discussion regarding supernatural topics designed to confirm target identification beyond physical appearance recognition. The staged dialogue established clear continuation from previous encounters while providing specific information triggers designed to prompt fallen angel engagement rather than continued surveillance. Their energy signature detection capability should confirm identification beyond visual recognition. Issei noted at precisely calibrated volume ensuring fallen angel surveillance could detect conversation despite apparent privacy. The boosted gear manifests distinct radiation pattern regardless of activation level, while Six Eyes technique creates unique dimensional distortion detectable through specialized perception methods. Assuming they possess sufficient technical sophistication, Kiba replied according to scripted exchange. Fallen angel sensory capabilities vary significantly between individuals' depending on specific evolutionary development and specialized training focus. The staged conversation continued through calculated duration, providing sufficient confirmation opportunity while maintaining apparent authentic interaction rather than obvious performance. Throughout precisely timed exchange, Issei monitored approaching fallen angel signatures through enhanced perception, 3 distinct patterns converging on their position from different directions according to predicted interception methodology. Engagement imminent, Issei observed quietly, voice returning to calibration for Kiba's hearing alone. All 3 targets approaching primary position with deliberate coordination pattern suggesting predetermined tactical formation. Kiba nodded almost imperceptibly, casual stance shifting subtly toward combat readiness without obvious transition visible to conventional observation. Formation indicates standard fallen angel confrontation methodology, primary interrogator support. Ed by flanking combat specialists positioned for containment rather than immediate elimination. The assessment matched predicted engagement parameters, information gathering prioritized above immediate hostile action. Confrontation designed for intelligence collection rather than target elimination. Optimal scenario for implemented strategy, allowing controlled demonstration within calculated parameters rather than requiring immediate maximum defensive response. Air distorted subtly as dimensional barriers activated around confrontation zone, Rias and Akino implementing predetermined containment. End protocol isolating engagement area from ordinary reality without alerting approaching fallen angels to established trap. The specialized barrier created controlled environment for scheduled demons. Tration while preventing potential civilian exposure regardless of confrontation development. 3 figures materialized from different directions simultaneously, black feathered wings extending dramatically as they descended into circular clearing with coordinated precision suggesting practiced tactical formation. Their appearances varied considerably despite shared fallen angel characteristics. Deliberate diversity indicating specialized function distribution within operational unit. Central figure presented as mature male with fedora hat and trench coat creating anachronistic appearance incongruous with modern surroundings. Expression combining arrogance with calculated assessment. Flanking positions occupied by female fallen angels presenting dramatic contrast. Tall, blue-haired woman. Wearing revealing business attire projecting aggressive confidence, while younger appearing dark-haired female in gothic Lolita fashion affected casual disinterest masking focused attention. Well, the central figure addressed them with theatrical condescension clearly designed to establish psychological dominance. The Devil Princess's newest pet project and her pretty swordsman. How Kanba, any ain't finding you without your mistress's direct supervision. Danesik, Hiba acknowledged with deliberate calm indicating recognition without concern. Still running errands for splinter factions instead of proper Grigori assignment. How disappointing for someone with your alleged experience. The targeted response visibly irritated the fallen angel despite attempted emotional control. Strat. EGIC communication striking precisely at status insecurity underlying his bombastic presentation. The psychological approach demonstrated sophisticated understanding of fallen angel's social hierarchy v. vulnerabilities beyond mere combat assessment. Our business isn't with you, devil lapdog, the blue-haired female interjected with aggressive disdain. We're here for the anomaly, the impossible energy. Why signature that shouldn't exist within a human vessel? Her direct reference confirmed earlier assessment regarding their mission parameters, specific interest in Issei's unique condition rather than general territorial provocation. The approach validated implemented strategy, confrontation providing controlled demonstration opportunity within optimal information management framework. Calawarner, always direct to the point. Hiba replied with deceptive pleasantness masking tactical assessment. Refreshing compared to your associate's tendency toward theatrical monologuing. Though I note Rainer seems unusually reserved today. The gothic Lolita-styled fallen angel, presumably Rainer, maintained calculated silence despite provocative reference, violet eyes studying Issei with unsettling intensity suggesting specialized analytical function within operational unit. Unlike her companion's obvious emotional reactions, her focused observation indicated more dangerous assessment capability beyond impulsive response patterns. Enough pleasantries, Danesik declared with obvious impatience, attention shifting directly toward Issei. You, boy, your energy signature defies conventional classification parameters. Explain yourself before we employ less comfortable investigative methods. The demand aligned perfectly with predicted confrontation development, direct interrogation supported by implicit threat. Standard fallen angel information gathering methodology when operating without official Grigori authorization. The approach created ideal opportunity for controlled demonstratio. N within strategic parameters established during planning session. I'm not obligated to explain anything to unauthorized intruders, Issei replied with deliberate calm matching predetermined response pattern. Especially fallen angel representatives operating without official Grigori sanction within clearly established devil territory. His response triggered visible surprise across all three Fallen angels. Unexpected knowledge regarding their unauthorized status clearly disrupting prepared interrogation approach. The reaction confirmed earlier intelligence assessment regarding their splint. R faction affiliation rather than official Grigori operation, important distinction within broader supernatural political landscape. Unexpected situational awareness, Rainer observed, breaking her calculated silence with clinical assessment. Intelligence briefing indicated recently awakened sacred gear user with limited supernatural knowledge, not politically informed operative with faction identification capability. The observation represented first significant deviation from predicted confrontation pattern, Rainer's analytical capability apparently exceeding initial assessment, recognizing strategic implications beyond mere confrontational exchange. Her perceptiveness presented both challenge and opportunity within implemented strategy, requiring adaptive response while potential. Why enhancing demonstration impact through qualified assessment distribution? Your intelligence sources require updating, Issei replied with measured confidence appropriate to calculated demonstration parameters. Among many other inaccuracies apparently informing your unauthorized investigation activities. Danesik's expression darkened with increasing irritation, tactical patience visibly oding beneath consecutive psychological provocations. Enough games. Our sources confirmed unusual energy manifestation within this territory, dragon signature combined with unclassified secondary pattern. Preliminary assessment suggests sacred gear containing heavenly dragon alongside something our analysts couldn't identify. And this concerns fallen angel splinter faction operations. How exactly? Kiba inquired with deliberate provocative tone designed to maintain psychological pressure according to established strategy. Especially operating without territorial authorization or proper Grigori research credentials. The continued reference to their unauthorized status visibly aggravated both Donasek and Calawarner, emotional control deteriorating according to predicted psychological response pattern. Raynor maintained composed analytical posture despite provocative exchange, violet eyes continuously assessing Issei with disturbing perceptiveness beyond her associate's reactive limitations. Our concern extends to any potential power imbalance affecting established supernatural equilibrium, Donasek declared with transparent attempt at authoritative justification despite lacking actual authorization. Unprecedented energy combinations warrant investigation regardless of territorial boundaries when potential threat assessment remains undefined. The explanation contain reasonable strategic principle despite unauthorized implementation. Legitimate concern regarding unknown power manifestation potentially affecting established supernatural balance, though properly addressed through official channels rather than unsanctioned splinter faction activity. The justification provided perfect opening for calculated demonstration according to established strategic parameters. And if your undefined threat assessment received practical demonstration, Issei inquired with deliberate calmness masking focused preparation beneath casual exterior. Would that satisfy your investigative requirements or merely confirm suspicions justifying further unauthorized intrusion? The question created momentary conversational imbalance, fallen angels clearly recognizing demonstration offer while uncertain regarding appropriate response given mission parameters. Their hesitation provided optimal timing for controlled capability display according to predetermined strategic framework. Initiative advantage shifting decisively toward implemented plan rather than reactive positioning. Without waiting for verbal response, Issei activated precisely calibrated manifestation sequence established during previous days' specialized training sessions. Blue-white light flickered across his eyes as Six Eyes technique activated at deliberately controlled intensity, sufficient visual indication for supernatural observation while maintaining predetermined power limitation parameters. Perhaps practical demonstration proves more efficient than extended conversation, Issei suggested. Voice remaining conversational despite visible supernatural manifestation transforming ordinary human appearance. Since verbal explanation apparently exceeds your analytical framework capabilities. Space distorted subtly around him as limitless technique activated within carefully established parameters, visible manifestation providing clear capability indication without revealing complete implementation potential. The controlled demonstration created unmistakable supernatural presence while deliberately preserving significant capability reservation according to strategic information management objectives. Fallen angel reactions displayed predictable differentiation according to individual function within operational unit, Donasek and Calawarner instinctively creating Chi spears despite lacking direct attack authorization, while Raynor maintained analytical observation without defensive manifestation despite closer proximity to demonstrated power source. Interesting response selection. Issei observed calmly, deliberately focusing attention on automatically generated light weapons rather than their wielders. Immediate combat manifestation despite lacking CK authorization suggests poor operational discipline consistent with splinter faction methodology rather than official Grigori protocols. Without obvious effort, he extended single hand toward nearest light spear. Spatial distortion intensifying around projected energy construct. Perhaps practical limitation demonstration proves necessary for appropriate threat assessment calibration. The light spear stopped mid-formation. Energy pattern freezing within dimensional space before completely inverting through controlled spatial manipulation. Without dramatic gesture or obvious power manifestation, the weapon simply ceased existing. Energy structure mathematically negated through calculated dimensional boundary adjustment rather than conventional power opposition. Shocked silence followed the casual demonstration. Fallen angel tactical assessment visibly recalibrating as implications registered across their combined awareness. The controlled display perfectly implemented strategic Objectives: clear capability demonstration without revealing complete potential, establishing respect while preserving uncertainty regarding full development parameters. That's not possible, Calawarner whispered. Shock temporarily overriding aggressive persona as tactical implications registered fully. Light weapons can't be negated without opposing energy deployment. There was no power signature, just mathematical negation. Conventional supernatural comprehension relies on power versus power equations, Issei explained with deliberate academic tone, minimizing confrontational implications. Different magical traditions operate from fundamentally different principles, particularly those predating standard classification systems. The explanation deliberately provided accurate technique. Information without revealing complete theoretical framework, calculated information distribution according to strategic parameters established during planning session. Sufficient explanation estable, issuing intellectual credibility while preserving fundamental uncertainty regarding complete capability assessment. Rainer's expression shifted with disturbing perceptiveness despite minimal outward reaction. Analytical mind clearly processing implications beyond obvious demonstration parameters. 6 eyes and limitless, she stated with unexpected recognition. Pre-convergence sorcery techniques supposedly extinct for centuries. Operating through dimensional mathematics rather than conventional energy manipulation. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.